Rebirth as a Russian tycoon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, Rich Boss. In front of the two of them, 24 key members of Google, that is, all the employees of the company, were sitting. The white woven lamp on the ceiling of the office building emitted bright light. Larry, Shegia and other key members of the company waited patiently without saying a word. It was not until about 5 minutes later that the landline in the president's office suddenly rang. Larry hurried to answer the phone and then hurried back to say to everyone in the company, "Go downstairs. The chairman will be here soon." Larry and Shegia are the executive presidents, and Mawey is the chairman of the company, one level higher than them. When everyone hurried out of the office building, after about 3 minutes, a light green Jaguar XJ220 sports car drove all the way to the crowd with low beam lights on. The Jaguar XJ220 is a super concept sports car from the 1990s. Only 281 units were produced at the time, which is very rare. Its avant-garde appearance design is not outdated even in 2019. It has become a treasure-level car for many sports car collectors. The one in the Jaguar sports car is our new boss. He looks so handsome. Wow, Jaguar XJ220. The real car is so cool. As soon as the Jaguar sports car appeared, many employees downstairs couldn't help but whisper to each other. President Larry had to look back at his employees and signaled them to behave in front of the new boss. But what he didn't expect was that Shegia, who was standing next to him, was also looking at the Jaguar sports car with envy and fanaticism, as if he would run forward in the next second. Larry patted Shegia in dismay. Then the two people who adjusted their expressions saw that the door of the Jaguar was opened by Mawey. "Chairman Mawey, good evening." Larry and Shegia immediately led people to greet them. Although the whole scene was not too warm, at least the heart was there. After all, it was so late. "Good evening, everyone." Mawey smiled and shook hands with Larry and Shegia. Then, under the introduction of the two, he shook hands with 24 key members of Google. During the process, Mawey kept a polite smile. He did not disrespect or be unfriendly to others because of his noble status. After shaking hands, Mawey stood in front of the crowd and said to everyone present, "Thank you very much for waiting for me so late. I came here to share something with you, so get on the bus," Mawey said, pointing to a bus parked not far away, motioning everyone to get on the bus. At this time, more than 20 employees standing in front of him looked at each other, wondering where the new boss was going to take them. According to their usual work and rest schedule, they should still be working overtime in the company at this time. After all, many data and classifications cannot be processed. Considering that Mawey is the chairman of the company, he is the biggest in the entire company. So even if the employees have doubts, they dare not raise them with Mawey openly. They can only wait until the work is done and then work overtime silently, trying to complete all the data that could not be processed during the day. Larry and Shegia, both dressed in suits, didn't know what Mawey was going to do so late at night. However, based on their trust in Mawey, the two took the lead and boarded the bus. 40 minutes later, when the tourist bus carrying 26 employees slowly drove into the Silicon Valley Creative Park and finally stopped in front of a certain avant-garde building, the 26 employees in the car all looked out of the window. "Why did you bring us here? What's going on? Huh? Isn't this the address of Excite? Is the chairman?" "I guess so. I'm not sure. We should know later." Some employees looked confused, while others seemed to have guessed something. Excite is a search engine on the internet, just like Google. At the beginning, Larry and Shegia wanted to sell Google to Excite for $1 million, but the other party thought it was too expensive. Now the chairman brought them here without even saying hello, which was really a bit unexpected. "Chairman Mawey, why did you bring us here?" When everyone got off the car, President Larry asked Mawey carefully. He had guessed the reason, but he was not sure. At this time, Mawey only smiled slightly, but did not answer Larry's question. This made some company employees standing in front of him even more confused about the situation. But at this moment, the Excite building, which was originally pitch black, suddenly lit up with bright lights. Then the door of the building suddenly opened from the inside. The shocked Google employees couldn't help but take a step back. Maweli glanced at the timid employees around him and then said to everyone, "Follow me in and take a look at your new office." As soon as the resounding voice fell, dozens of Google employees headed by Larry and Schedule were suddenly surprised and opened their eyes wide with surprise. Looking at the expressions on their faces, they were obviously excited and couldn't believe it. "What? Here, this Excite company is now our new office? Oh my god. No way. The boss has acquired Excite. I remember last year, the market value of this company was as high as $7.2 billion US. Oh my god. Boss, this is too amazing." Those employees who were not well informed exclaimed in a low voice. Maweli listened to the whispers of the employees. In fact, he did not acquire Excite. Instead, this internet company was forced to file for bankruptcy due to a broken capital chain. As a result, a series of assets were auctioned by the court. The time of bankruptcy was originally in 2001, but it may be due to the parallel world in the butterfly effect, it was a little earlier. To sum it up in a simple sentence, Maweli picked up a big bargain. He only spent millions of dollars to buy this fashionable building of Excite and many internet hardware. Larry and Schedule knew about the bankruptcy of Excite. After all, it had been made public. But what the two were not sure about was that they did not expect Maweli to buy it so vigorously. The money spent is much more expensive than the acquisition of Google. "Chairman Maweli, did you buy all this place?" Larry and Schedule looked at the office of the former leading company, which has now become their own company, and couldn't help but sigh that things are impermanent. "I guess so," Maweli said lightly, pretending a little. "Anyway, Google is his own company now, so it doesn't matter how much money he spends." After hearing this, Larry and Schedule respected Maweli even more, and it was not an exaggeration to even worship him. After all, the two of them don't have the ability to push the company to such a height at present. Chapter 27 IBM Mainframe. Just when Larry and Schedule were greatly impressed by what Maweli did, a network engineer wearing glasses came to Larry and the others, hesitant to speak. "What's the matter, Martin?" Larry saw that he was busy and asked the man. Hearing the president's question, Martin couldn't help but adjust his glasses and then whispered to the three people, "It's like this, President Larry, Chairman Maweli, President Schedule. I just went to the computer room and found that there was no server in it." "No server?" Larry and Schedule were surprised and a little panicked at the same time. The two people's understanding of the server is not worse than that of Martin, the network engineer. The corporate website operates 24 hours a day. The response speed when customers log into the website, the huge database, file information, computing processing, all of these are inseparable from the support of the server. To put it bluntly, if a company's server is too backward, then no matter how large the website develops, it will not be of much use. After all, its carrying capacity is limited. Hearing that the company's computer room lacks servers, the 23 company backbones who were originally visiting everywhere could not help but gather around Maweli and the other four. They wanted to hear from the company's top management if there was any good solution, whether the server was stolen or something like that. Maweli, who was standing in the middle of the crowd, had long known about the lack of servers. So he said to everyone directly, "Excite's x86 architecture server was previously auctioned off by the court to another internet company." "Ah. How could it be so unlucky?" "Yes, it's really too unlucky, so unlucky." After knowing the truth, the employees sighed that their luck was really bad. If there were x86 architecture servers as support, the performance of their Google search engine would be improved several times. The responsiveness would also be much better than before. Just as the employees were sighing like this, Maweli, who was standing in the middle of the crowd, suddenly said to everyone, "Actually, there's nothing unlucky about this, because..." Maweli stopped talking halfway through his words. Larry and Schedule, who were standing beside him, and the 24 employees around him couldn't understand what he was doing. However, at this moment, a pure white closed truck stopped in front of the company. Then, several Russian men in black suits set up the unloading board in a well-trained manner. Then, in front of everyone, they unloaded the black chassis in the car smoothly. The unloaded black chassis was so huge that it needed 4 Russian strongmen to carry it to the truck safely. When the black-clad bodyguards brought the black host into the company safely, Martin, a very knowledgeable network engineer, suddenly screamed and held his head. "That's it. That's it. IBM mainframe. My god." With his strange cry, Larry, Shegul and others also saw the true face of the black mainframe. That is the most powerful super server IBM mainframe in the world today. The price of each IBM mainframe is as high as more than $3 million US. What x86 servers, what Unix servers, in front of the mainframe, the performance is like scum. It is simply weak. Even if it is an x86 server cluster, it is difficult to offset the gap in performance and maintenance. After all, IBM mainframe only needs to maintain one. And the x86 server cluster has too many, and it is difficult to maintain. President Larry and Shegul and others stared at the bodyguard in amazement, and carried the mainframe to everyone. Only its black chassis was taller than some employees present. The wide black body was nearly 3 meters long. Oh my god. The boss actually spent so much money to equip us with a mainframe. The price of this mainframe is almost equivalent to 6 times the market value of our company. A fair-skinned female employee quietly discussed with her colleagues. That's right. This is really scary. The new boss is really awesome, and his courage is really amazing. The companion responded in a low voice. What everyone whispered about was also what Larry and Shegul thought. Marwen's move was really amazing and bold. The acquisition of this new company, plus the investment in IBM mainframes, was at least tens of millions of dollars. The two worked hard at the beginning, and after 1.5 years of starting a business, they only developed the company to a market value of $600,000 US. And Marwen's casual move was at the level of tens of millions of US. It was really beyond the reach of the two and was daunting. Almost everyone present was amazed by Marwen's generosity. Marwen, who was in the center of the field, said to everyone casually, "The hardware and office environment are now in place. I think everyone has seen that this was originally the office location of Excite. Before the internet bubble crisis, the market value of Excite was once hyped up to $7.2 billion US by capitalists. And our Google company only has a pitiful $600,000 US. Such a huge gap. One is 7.2 billion, and the other is 600,000. Can anyone tell me how many times the difference is between the two? Marwen can get hardware resources by spending money, but the software resources, such as the company's future development direction and the beliefs of each employee, all need him to lead, which is what the boss calls boosting morale or brainwashing. Chairman Marwen, it's about 12,000 times different. Martin, a network engineer, quickly calculated and answered. Yes, it's nearly 12,000 times different. The internet company, that was once in its heyday, has now ended up in this field. Where is our future? Marwen's question can be said to be the key. Most of the employees present, even the two presidents Larry and Sergey, have not thought about the future seriously. They just know that everyone is working on the internet, so they also get involved in it. As for future development, to be honest, I really haven't thought about it, and I can't think clearly. Seeing that no one had answered, Marwen, with his experience as a future reader, patiently said to everyone, "Here, I can tell you clearly that the future of Google is in 1 or 2 years. When computers are popularized and the internet is covered in developed countries around the world, there will be tens of millions, hundreds of millions of users using our search engine. By then it will be a digital information age." Marwen's eloquent talk made Larry, Shegul and others standing in front of him suddenly feel a sense of gradual enlightenment. It was as if the originally blurred consciousness was suddenly lit up and clarified. When the internet age really arrives, at that time, technology will be so advanced and convenient that hundreds of millions of families will have desktop computers and laptops. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Aston Martin V8. The scenes described by Marwen will be common in the future. But in 2000, they were insights and theories that were ahead of the times. After hearing this, Larry, Sergey and others didn't know what expression to use to face Maweli. After all, it is really difficult to look at the future with the eyes of today's people. After finishing the current development of Google, Maweli went back to the hotel and took a nap. When he woke up, he was going to take a plane back to Russia to stay for 2 days. At present, he has invested in Amazon, the second largest company in the United States in the future, and acquired Google, the third largest company in the United States in the future. So Maweli plans to enjoy himself in the next period of time. After all, internet unicorn companies like Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter were not established in 2000. Maweli still has a lot of time, enough for him to squander. However, at noon the next day, when Maweli was about to ask the housekeeper to arrange the itinerary, he suddenly received a call on his mobile phone. It was Jennifer. "I heard you say you were going to California 2 days ago. I'm leaving there now. Why don't we have a meal?" Jennifer was going to attend a friend's concert in California, so she wanted to meet Maweli by the way and have a meal or something. Maweli thought about it and replied, "Sure. What time will you arrive?" "It's less than an hour before we arrive at the California airport." Jennifer called Maweli on the private plane, and it was after the plane flew for nearly 4 hours that she made up her mind to call. The reason why she was so entangled was that since the last separation, Jennifer could not find a good excuse to ask Maweli out again. Girls all want to save face, and it takes courage to take the initiative to ask men out. So Jennifer had been brewing this courage for most of the day before she made this satellite call to Maweli. Sometimes fate is such a coincidence. If the call had come 2 hours later, Maweli would have boarded the plane back to Russia. An hour later, at the California airport, Jennifer took her father's Gulfstream V business jet and landed safely on the airport tarmac. The Gulfstream V business jet was sold for $36 million in 2000, which is much larger than Maweli's Gulfstream G200. When the plane stopped steadily, 3 pure white Aston Martin V8s that had been waiting for a long time not far away surrounded it in an orderly manner. At this time, the female bodyguard sitting in the cabin frowned and said to Jennifer, "Miss, that person is here again." The person the female bodyguard was talking about was the one who was holding flowers, wearing a white suit, and walked out of the first Aston Martin V8 car. His name is Bob, and he is a rich young man who has been pestering Jennifer and launching a courtship offensive recently. Bob's family is in the clothing business. There are branches of his brand in many countries around the world. The 3 Aston Martin V8s sent to pick up Jennifer today were bought by Bob to please her. He spent nearly $1 million on the money. Why is it him again? How did he know I was coming to California? Jennifer frowned and looked out the window. Her good mood was instantly ruined by the playboy in front of her. In fact, her itinerary today was told to Bob by a friend of hers. It was to create an opportunity for Bob. Just when Jennifer was depressed and wanted to get off the plane, but didn't want Bob to harass her, she suddenly received a text message on her mobile phone. "Has the plane landed?" This text message was sent by Maweli, and he had already arrived at the airport. "It has landed. I'll be there soon." Jennifer quickly replied in the text message. Then she planned to bite the bullet and get off the plane in her own car and leave. Ignore the playboy holding the rose. When the plane ramp opened, Jennifer, wearing a light blue dress, walked down the plane coldly under the escort of the female bodyguard. At this time, Bob, holding flowers in his hands, strode forward with a smile and welcomed Jennifer. "Hi, Miss Jennifer, these are roses for you. Do you like them? I bought them specially for you. And these 3 Aston Martins are also your favorite brand." "Sorry, I have something else to do." Jennifer refused expressionlessly. She had no good feelings for playboy. Bob, who was rejected by the cold butt, smiled very stiffly at this moment. He came all the way here just to give Jennifer a surprise, hoping that she would like everything he prepared. But he was still ignored, which hurt him a lot. "It's okay, Miss Jennifer, I'll drive you." Bob invited Jennifer very gentlemanly. But at this time, Jennifer's eyes were all focused on a Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren sports car that was driving steadily in the distance. The sports car in the distance was silver in color. Under the sunlight, it reflected a silvery white light. The simple and elegant Mercedes-Benz logo was very conspicuously designed on the front of the car. Combined with the handsome air intake and headlights of the sports car, it gave people a strong sense of luxury. No, thank you. Jennifer still refused. At this time, she had gradually seen that the person sitting in the Mercedes-Benz sports car was Maweli, who came to pick her up. When the silver Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren sports car drove to the Gulfstream V business jet with a low engine sound, the door opened, and Maweli walked out of the car wearing sunglasses in a very stylish manner. Maweli took a general look at the situation in front of him, and then asked Jennifer jokingly, "Do you have an appointment?" No. Jennifer hurriedly shook her hand to deny it, fearing that Maweli would misunderstand the relationship between her and Bob. "If there is no appointment, then I'm leaving." Maweli followed the meaning of the words, and said with a bad smile. Then he sat back in the car, looking like he was about to leave. Jennifer never thought that Maweli was such a bad person. She was thinking about meeting her savior. But who knew that Maweli would play such a trick on her? So it was too late. Jennifer, who was so angry that she bit her lips, immediately ran to Maweli's car. Then she opened the passenger door with her bare hands and sat in directly. At the same time, she raised her fist and punched Maweli's chest. In this life, Maweli experienced the pain and happiness of a beautiful woman's little fist hitting your chest. Fortunately, his chest muscles are strong and can withstand and fight. Otherwise he would probably feel pain for a long time with these two punches. "Fasten your seatbelts and sit tight," Maweli said, and started the sports car directly. Then while Jennifer fastened her seatbelt, he stepped on the accelerator, letting the V8 engine of the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren roar loudly. Chapter 29 Return to Russia. "Fasten your seatbelts and sit tight," Maweli said, and started the sports car directly. Then, while Jennifer fastened her seatbelt, he stepped on the accelerator, letting the V8 engine of the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren roar loudly. Boom. There was an amazing sound, and it exploded at the airport. Then Maweli turned the steering wheel, turned the Mercedes-Benz sports car around, and then drove away with Jennifer. Bob, who had silently witnessed the whole process, looked depressed, jealous and helpless as the Mercedes-Benz sports car went away. He threw the red rose in his hand to the ground powerlessly. The broken red petals were blown everywhere by the wind. "Master, did you let Miss Jennifer be taken away by that man? Do you want us to chase him?" The servant who came out of the Aston Martin asked Bob with concern. Bob, who was hit hard, was so depressed that he didn't say anything. He obviously lost this time, and Bob could also feel that Maweli obviously didn't regard him as a competitor. Whether from the expression on his face or Maweli's attitude, he has never been taken seriously. From childhood to adulthood, Bob has been accustomed to a life where he can get whatever he wants. But today, he was hit invisibly. Fortunately, he is not a brain-dead rich second generation. He will not say things like "I will destroy what I can't get" or "I will destroy him" if he dares to compete with me for women as in novels or movies. After all, there are police in the real world. Whoever dares to break the law casually will end up in prison and be picked up by soap. Anyway, according to statistics, the number of prisoners who are sexually assaulted in American prisons can fill 350,000 person football stadiums every year. At the same time, the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren sports car has been driven out of the airport platform by Maweli. He is going to take Jennifer for a walk around. When the Mercedes-Benz sports car drove all the way to the driveway outside the terminal and waited for the red light, through the car window, Maweli could see that the tourists entering and leaving the terminal were looking at him with their eyes fixed. It seemed that they wanted to see clearly who was sitting in the car. Maweli held the steering wheel with both hands and turned his head to look at the traffic light ahead. Jennifer, who was sitting in the passenger seat, was thinking about ways to fight back against Maweli because of his teasing just now. But no matter how hard Jennifer racked her brains, she seemed to be unable to find Maweli's flaws. She could only look at his profile quietly from time to time and then get angry with herself and feel so stupid. It has to be said that women's inner drama is complicated. Maweli doesn't have so many thoughts to guess the little girl's thoughts. "I'll go shopping for a while, and then I'll go back to Russia." Mawei looked at the intersection ahead and broke the silence first. As soon as he finished speaking, Jennifer, who was sitting in the passenger seat, suddenly felt a little lost for some reason. She originally wanted to spend an afternoon with Mawei, but she didn't expect Mawei to return home so soon. Go back. Are you coming back? Jennifer didn't know what she was talking about. There was no subject, predicate, or object. All she could think about now was that Mawei was going back to China, and she might not see him again in the future. At this time, Mawei turned around and looked at Jennifer, then said, "It depends on the situation." "Oh, I know." Jennifer bit her lip and looked out the window. The sunny weather could not make her happy. Mawei looked at her beautiful profile. Compared with the scenery outside the window, Jennifer in the car was obviously more attractive. "What do you know?" Mawei asked. "What else can I know? You are going back to China." Jennifer saw that Mawei was asking deliberately. It's really sad to talk about foreign feelings. No name, no status. It's over when you say it's over. So, you don't want to leave. Mawei turned his head and looked at the intersection ahead. He had made great progress in his insight after 2 lives. What's there to be reluctant about? Jennifer said stubbornly. In fact, she really hoped that Mawei could stay. Okay then. Mawei raised his eyebrows to show that he knew. Then when the red light turned green, he stepped on the accelerator and started the sports car. The roar of the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren was played to the maximum. The whole street could hear it. Many passers-by turned their heads to look at the sports car. After strolling on the road for 20 minutes, Mawei drove Jennifer back to the airport. At this time, her personal female bodyguard had prepared a car and was waiting outside the terminal. And Mawei's private plane was also ready. When the Mercedes-Benz sports car slowly stopped at the terminal driveway, Mawei and Jennifer in the car did not speak. They had been silent for 20 minutes. They seemed to be feeling this last time together. "We are here." Mawei tapped the steering wheel with his index finger and said to Jennifer, "Yeah." Jennifer responded softly, then unbuckled her seatbelt, but she was reluctant to get out of the car. Mawei was not in a hurry to urge her, but continued to tap the steering wheel of the Mercedes-Benz with his index finger. About half a minute later, Jennifer, who was wearing a blue dress, bit her lip and took a last look at Mawei. Then, she reached out to open the car door. Then, she suddenly leaned over. Before Mawei could react, she pressed her lips against his cheek. The sudden kiss caught Mawei off guard. He originally thought that Jennifer would get out of the car and leave, but he didn't expect the result to be like this. Mawei turned his head to look at Jennifer, who had just kissed him, but found that at this time, Jennifer was looking at him with a smug smile. "Do you think I will believe you and never come back? Next time you come to the United States, remember to find me as soon as possible." After saying this, Jennifer turned around and got out of the car with an even stronger smile, then stood outside the car and waved to Mawei. Mawei, who was sitting in the car, looked outside the car in a daze. After all this time, it turned out that he was fooled. All those things just now were intentional by Jennifer. Mawei watched Jennifer being taken into the car by the female bodyguard. At this moment, he suddenly realized, am I being teased? He reached out and touched the place where Jennifer had kissed him and found a faint layer of red lipstick marks on it. Mawei smiled and shook his head. Sure enough, women in this world are not easy to fool, especially rich girls like Jennifer. She is not the silly and sweet girl in TV dramas. After wiping off the lipstick marks, Mawei took out his mobile phone and sent a text message to Jennifer. "Your skills in stealing relatives are pretty good. Who did you learn from?" A few seconds later, the mobile phone received a text message reply. "I taught myself." Looking at the little tail after the message, Mawei could feel Jennifer's pride through the screen. Chapter 30 Mawei's garage. So he simply didn't reply to the text message, drove directly to the airport, and then boarded his private plane. "I'm on the plane." After the kiss just now, Mawei felt that the distance between the two was obviously shortened. "Well, have a safe trip. Remember to send me a message when you arrive." Jennifer also felt the same way. She mustered up the courage to give that kiss just now, and it took her a long time to prepare. She almost didn't have the courage to implement it. After all, it was the first time. After flying back to Moscow from California, Mavey sent a safe text message to Jennifer as agreed. Then he got on the Rolls-Royce Silver Angel that came to pick him up and drove out of the airport with 3 cool and majestic Tiger armored vehicles. "Master, are you going back to your home in the suburbs? Or your home in the city?" At this time, the butler Ivan asked Mavey softly. The home in the suburbs he asked about was the mountain villa that Mavey saw on the day he was reborn and traveled through time. As for the home in the city, Mavey didn't have much impression. He only knew that the garage of the villa was parked with all the sports cars he had modified and collected. "It's in the city, right?" Mavey said to the butler indifferently. He really wanted to see how magnificent his garage would be. "Okay, young master." After hearing the order, the butler immediately arranged it for Mavey. About half an hour later, the Tiger armored convoy drove to the villa in the rich area of Moscow. Mavey glanced out of the car window and found that the villas here were larger than the manor he bought in Washington. Especially those magnificent villas. The smaller ones were estimated to be nearly 2,000 square meters. This did not include the area of the outer garden. "I really don't know anything about myself," Mavey thought silently in his heart. He heard from the butler Ivan that the people living in this rich area were all Russian tycoons, and ordinary rich people could not get in, even if they spent money. Because before buying a house, you need to pass an interview. The so-called interview means that the developer will review and screen the buyers. If you are not qualified, the developer will refuse to sell you the house, even if the house is empty. For example, there was a potential customer who was rejected by the developer because he had an Afghan sheepdog. In other words, they rejected a $2 million business just because of a dog. This operation is really Russian. When the Rolls-Royce Silver Angel stopped in front of a large single-family villa, butler Ivan turned back respectfully and said to Mavey, "Master, we are here." Mavey looked up at the villa in front of him and found that the design and decoration were authentic ancient Russian style. It looked a bit like the Red Square in Moscow, and the roof shape was designed as a retro white spire. On the wall of the villa, a 3-dimensional Russian palace pattern was carved. Seeing the young master's motorcade coming back from the airport, the 2 servants in charge of guarding the gate immediately opened the cast iron gate and let the vehicle in. "Go to the garage and have a look." Compared with the extraordinarily luxurious Russian villa, Mavey wanted to see how many luxury cars were parked in his garage first. "Okay, young master." After listening to the instructions, the Rolls-Royce started slowly and drove into the villa. Then it drove to an open space in the east and stopped. Seeing this, Mavey felt a little strange. Didn't we agree to go to the garage? Where is there a garage around here? However, just as he was thinking this, he saw that the Rolls-Royce that had stopped suddenly started moving again. But it was not moving forward and backward. To be precise, it was slowly sinking down. Just like the scene in the movie when entering the underground base. Fuck. Mavey couldn't help but say fuck in his heart. But it was hard to calm down. He was horrified at this time. Under the suddenly sinking concrete ground, there was actually an underground fortress made of steel. In this brightly lit fortress, almost all supplies were available. Food, water, medicine, weapons. Even generators were equipped, just like it was built for the end of the world. In fact, the villa that Mavey's parents left him took a lot more effort than that military factory. This steel fortress was designed and built by his parents in order to prevent the arrival of troubled times. Looking at the shocking scene that can only be seen in the movie, Mavey for a moment forgot that he was here to visit his garage. "I remember that in my previous life, the Prince of Dubai once showed off his luxurious garage on the internet. There were Bugatti Veyron, Rolls-Royce, and all kinds of luxury cars inside." Mavey was envious. Compared with his underground garage, Mavey deeply felt that everything before was so weak. No wonder the news reports always said that many world-class rich people have secretly built safe houses for themselves. Now Mavey completely understood. As the Rolls-Royce Silver Angel slowly drove in, the white lights of the underground garage were lit one by one. Mavey saw that parked on both sides were super sports cars that dominated the 90s. And these sports cars were all parked according to brands. For example, the first thing that caught Mawey's eyes was the silver Ferrari 456 GTA, the pure black Ferrari 355 F1 GTS, and the fiery red 360 Medina. After passing the Ferrari classification, Mawey saw a pure black Lamborghini Diablo, which was domineeringly parked in the parking space. Next to it, there is a light blue Bugatti Ed 110 GT, a bright yellow Porsche 911 GT, a pure white McLaren F1, and a modified Jaguar XJ220. Looking at these luxury cars in his garage, Mawey feels that this is probably the most luxurious garage in the 1990s. It's a pity that the automobile industry in this era was not well developed, and many sports car companies faced bankruptcy and asset restructuring. For example, luxury car brands such as Lamborghini, Bugatti, and Bentley. It is estimated that it will take until after 2004 to return to the stage and shine. After admiring his underground garage, Mawey took the garage's dedicated elevator and arrived directly inside the villa. As soon as the elevator door opened, a furry snowball suddenly wowed and ran towards him. "Winnie, I haven't seen you for 2 weeks, and you've grown so big." Mawey looked at the little polar bear lying at his feet. He found that this guy grew up so fast. Now he is about the same size as a medium-sized dog. If it weren't for her silly look, Mawey would have mistaken her home for a Samoyed. Winnie, the polar bear, hugged Mawey's thigh affectionately with her front paws, as if she was acting coquettishly towards him, and seemed to be saying, "Why did you come back just now? I haven't seen you for a long time." AWW. Winnie has been taking training classes recently. The course will teach her how to get close to humans, and how to obey the instructions given. The trainer will also train her to change some bad habits of polar bears. Chapter 31 T90 Tank. Master Mawey, you are back. The maiden Fear, wearing a black silk maid outfit, trotted over and took the initiative to greet Mawey. Mawey responded casually, and then asked in fear, "Has Winnie been attending classes well these days?" "Yes, Master Mawey. Winnie has been doing very well these days, and even the teacher praised her for being well behaved," the maiden Fear said meekly. "After 2 weeks of adaptation, she has been able to do this job very well. And the boss Mawey is a gentleman. Unlike other lustful masters, he would touch his servants and even try to defile them." After hearing this, Mawey picked Winnie up and found that the little polar bear was indeed very well behaved. He lay quietly on his shoulder and did not move around. Mawey estimated that he would only be able to hug the bear at this time. When Winnie comes of age, he will be the one hugged by the bear. Eat. The feeling of being at home is better than being outside. When Mawey gave an order, the servants and chefs who had been waiting for a long time gathered in the hall, and they were neatly lined up in a row. Mawey ordered a few dishes casually, and then while waiting for the servants to serve the dishes, he played with Winnie. "Winnie, catch it." Mawey casually threw a silver wool ball toy to the corner of the living room. Then, Winnie, who was lying on the floor, opened her mouth with joy and turned to run towards the wool ball toy. Then he brought the wool ball toy back to Mawey. "So good." Mawey reached out to take the wool ball. If he remembered correctly, this wool ball toy made of sterling silver was actually made by the luxury brand Tiffany and was one of the 5 limited edition handmade masterpieces. The price is $3,000 US. The world of the rich is really incomprehensible. A wool ball toy for pets can actually sell for $3,000 US. That is 24,000 RMB. This is simply a living people are not as good as pets series. Master Mawey, it's time for dinner. After playing with Winnie for a while, the maiden Fear gently reminded Mawey that he could enjoy dinner. Yes. Mawey stood up and came to the dining table. Then he saw the servants bringing the delicious dishes to him one by one. After resting at home for a few days, Mawey wanted to go to the large military factory outside Moscow and buy 2 tanks. He hadn't decided on the model of the tank yet, but it didn't matter. He had plenty of money anyway, and he had successfully invested in the United States. It didn't matter if he spent a little. After enjoying a fine dinner, the maiden Fear sent Mawey back to his room to rest. There were relatively few entertainments in 2000, and there were not many online games, including live broadcasts, smartphones and other element, which had not yet appeared. so Maweli could only lie lazily on the bed and enjoy Anfir's massage service. Master Maweli, is this strength okay? Russian women, even if they are young girls, are quite strong. After all, this is a fighting nation with a tradition of fighting. Soft girls and the like can't get by in Russia. Yeah. Maweli lay on the soft big bed, feeling Anfir's jade feet in black silk stockings stepping back and forth on his back. Winnie, the little polar bear, looked curiously under the bed, tilted her head, wondering what the two were doing. After 2 days of rest and adjustment in the villa, Maweli took a car to the tank military factory in the suburbs of Moscow. This military factory covers an area of 200,000 square meters. It is 4 times the size of Maweli's military factory. When the convoy drove to the front door of this large military factory, Maweli saw an old friend who had been waiting for him for a long time, Nikolai. This old friend, who was about the same age as him and drove a Porsche 911, was the young master of the military factory in front of him. He and Maweli met when they were studying in the UK before. They had a pretty good relationship. Nikolai was 1.75 meters tall and thin. His hair was naturally curly, like Teddy's hair, hanging on his head. He just came back from studying in the UK last year and is now familiar with the business in his father's military factory. Haha. Maweli. Long time no see. As soon as the two met, Nicholas, who was wearing a black down jacket, gave Maweli a warm hug. Long time no see, Nicholas. Maweli also stretched out his arms and hugged the familiar yet unfamiliar friend in front of him. Haha. Did you have a good trip? I heard that you went to the United States 2 days ago. How many girls did you find? Nicholas is indeed Maweli's old friend. After just a few words, he talked about the topic of women. Maweli smiled and said, I said I didn't find any. Do you believe it? Who knew that? As soon as he finished speaking, Nicholas immediately shook his head like a rattle. No, I don't believe it. There should be no shortage of them. Maweli raised his eyebrows helplessly, which was regarded as a tacit agreement. At this time, Nicholas, who was standing in front of him, smiled and said to him, I heard on the phone 2 days ago that you want to buy 2 tanks? Come on, I'll take you to visit first. Okay. Maweli got on Nicholas' bright yellow 911 sports car and was taken to an unusually large factory building. This is where we load tanks. If you like any model, you can tell me directly, Nikolai said, and drove the Porsche sports car slowly into the tank warehouse. Then, sitting in the car, Maweli saw the legendary king of land warfare, the tank battle vehicle. One by one, the tanks were hoisted by the crane and transported to the tank transporter. Born in peacetime, Maweli had only seen tanks on TV, but he had never seen a tank in real life. He had seen a netizen say on the internet that after the tanks were built, they were directly driven out of the arsenal. But now he knew that they had to be fixed on a special flatbed trailer and then towed away by the transporter. These main battle tanks, Maweli, you should know them all, right? This one is the T-72, which was put into service in 1971, and the one opposite it is the T-90, which started to serve in 1995. Nikolai introduced them to Maweli enthusiastically. His military factory mainly produces 2 types of tanks, T-72 and T-90. Maweli looked at the T-90 main battle tank hoisted by the aerial vehicle. The 46-ton steel body was equipped with a 125mm automatic loading smoothbore gun that could fire ordinary shells and gun-launched missiles. The anti-aircraft machine gun on the top of the tank can be transformed into an automatic grenade launcher according to the customer's preferences. Seeing these extremely destructive steel soldiers, Maweli's desire for destruction was aroused again. T-90 tank, how much is it? The rich second generation can only buy sports cars, airplanes, and yachts at best. But Maweli bought a tank directly. The style is completely different. You and I are old friends. As usual, it's $350,000 per car after discount. Nicholas said to Maweli with a smile. Now the arms business is getting harder and harder every year, and no big orders are received in a year. Chapter 32 Ferrari 550. 350,000? Maweli thought about it for a while. He remembered that in 2018, the T-90 tank was sold at a price of $5 million. I didn't expect it to be sold so cheaply in 2000, at only $350,000 US. Okay, then give me two. And buy some more ammunition by the way. Mavey made a decision to buy two T-90 main battle tanks and some bullets. Before, Russian Mavey also found others to buy other types of tanks. Then play tank wars in the wilderness. Just drive a tank to blow up another one, and then use the TOW anti-tank missile or C4 bomb. Bang, all blown up, just for fun. It's so refreshing to do business with you, brother. Then I'll give you two more 125mm armor-piercing shells. This newly developed armor-piercing shell can penetrate 875mm steel plates at a distance of 2,000 meters. Nicholas is also good at doing business. He knows that Mavey is a long-term customer of his military factory. Mavey smiled after hearing this, and then paid the money very readily. After the transaction was completed, Nikolai immediately asked the transport truck to deliver the T-90 main battle tanks that Mavey bought to his mountain villa. As for the shells, missiles, and armor-piercing shells that Mavey bought, they were placed in wooden boxes one by one. Then his bodyguards carried the boxes to the Tiger tanks one by one. Among Mavey's bodyguards, there were tank soldiers who had driven tanks before. So the T-90 main battle tanks were transported to the villa. Mavey immediately asked the bodyguard to sit in the tank and then took him to the back mountain. When Mavey sat in the tank, he found that the space inside could accommodate 3 people. The sophisticated electronic equipment, the closed steel space, and the various switch buttons that he couldn't understand suddenly gave him the illusion of going to the battlefield to fight. The T-90 main battle tank is equipped with a V84MS V12 cylinder engine with a maximum speed of 60 km per hour. It burns diesel, so when the tank starts slowly, there is always a lingering smell of diesel in the cockpit. However, this does not affect the experience. On the contrary, it can stimulate the man's heroic feeling of going into battle to kill the enemy. Mavey sat in the tank and felt that the tank was moving. The car was very bumpy and even made his butt hurt. It was much stronger than the butt shaking of a Ferrari sports car. He looked at the electronic screen in the tank, which showed the road conditions ahead. The electronic screen was installed on the tank by someone else. It was originally a periscope. The T-90 main battle tank has very strong combat power. It is not just a 46-ton iron lump. The tank is equipped with Contact 5 explosive reactive armor, optoelectronic protection system, infrared suppression system, fire control system and other electronic systems. It can make most anti-tank weapons be detonated in advance before hitting the armor. It greatly reduces the threat of anti-tank missiles to tanks. For example, TOW anti-tank missiles, anti-tank rocket launchers, etc. Moreover, the 125mm laser beam missile of the T-90 tank can accurately hit long-distance targets or low-flying objects. About 10 minutes later, Mavey took the T-90 main battle tank and came to an open area in the back mountain. The whole mountain belongs to his family, and this area has been completely blocked by his bodyguards, so no one will enter the dangerous area by mistake and cause injury or death. Following Mavey's tank is the armored vehicle team responsible for video shooting. 2 weeks ago, when Mavey was in the United States, he acquired a video website on the verge of bankruptcy. The name is Verge, which translates to V-Guest. The reason why this video website was acquired by Mavey is that Mavey feels that he does not have to wait until YouTube, Tumblr, and Twitter are established before acquiring it. After all, that is 4 or 5 years later. And he has the foresight of a future person, and he can use the core concept exactly in V-Guest video. It will stir up waves on the internet in advance. When everything was almost ready, Mavey looked at the electronic screen and saw a red Ferrari 550 convertible sports car parked in an open area. Then he said to the bodyguard driving the tank, "Press it over." The bodyguard heard the order and started the tank immediately. Suddenly, the 12-cylinder diesel engine made a loud roar, followed by a thick exhaust gas spraying out from the exhaust port. Mavey, sitting in the tank, felt the tank suddenly shake violently, and then there was a clear thrust from his back. Mawei stared at the tank display without blinking, watching the steel monster under him, with a terrifying body weighing 46 tons, rushing towards the Ferrari sports car at full speed. 10 meters. 8 meters. 6 meters. The distance between the T-90 tank and the convertible sports car was getting closer and closer. Mawei also saw that the red sports car on the monitor was constantly enlarging at a speed visible to the naked eye. 5 meters. 3 meters. 1 meter. When the T-90 tank came to the Ferrari 550 sports car with a piercing roar, it rushed all the way. Suddenly, the tank's fast-moving metal tracks crushed the hood of the Ferrari sports car in the blink of an eye. Crack, crack, crack. The iron body of the Ferrari sports car could not stop the terrifying weight of the T-90 tank. As soon as the two cars met, the T-90 tank ran over the convertible sports car with the momentum of a mountain. The Ferrari sports car was directly crushed into an irregular red discus. The headlights of the broken front of the car had been crushed to pieces. The originally cool air intake had also been crushed into a lump by the heavy object. The four wheels of the sports car were crushed to the point of being deformed and hanging around, and the tires installed on them had long been crushed into tatters. Sitting in the tank, Mawei personally experienced the tank crushing the Ferrari. He opened the hatch of the tank and admired the red discus from a close distance. I remember when he was just reborn, Mawei still felt sorry for the Mercedes-Benz C230 worth $80,000. However, after more than 2 weeks of adaptation and a change in mentality, he can now spend his money calmly on a Ferrari 550 sports car worth $490,000. This is a good progress. Did you take pictures? Mawei asked the bodyguard in charge of filming. All taken, master. The filming team has 3 cameras and can record the scenes from multiple angles. Very good. Then start the next target. It is rare to buy 2 new main battle tanks, so Mawei will naturally not end the battle so quickly. The next target he mentioned is not a sports car or a luxury house, it is the Ka-37 multi-purpose unmanned helicopter. As soon as Mawei finished speaking, he saw a military green helicopter parked in the distance, and it began to rotate the propeller, blowing gusts of wind. Mawei squinted his eyes and looked at the leaves and grass roots that were blown around. I can't help but feel that I'm really capable in this life. I'm so cool that I can drive a tank and bomb a helicopter. This is really exciting. Chapter 33 Ka-37 Multi-Purpose Unmanned Helicopter. The Ka-37 multi-purpose unmanned helicopter is controlled by radio ground remote control. In order to operate this helicopter, Mawei also specially asked his bodyguard to take a training course. Anyway, his family has connections to handle these things. When the Ka-37 helicopter slowly flew to the middle of the air, Mawei sat back in the tank and ordered the driver, shoot it down for me. Hearing that the young master wanted to shoot down the helicopter himself, the bodyguard directly adjusted the muzzle of the gun and then captured the flight trajectory of the helicopter with extraordinary concentration. Young master, are you going to fire now? The bodyguard almost locked the helicopter. As long as Mawei gave the order, he would have the confidence to shoot the plane down. Fire. Mawei looked at the electronic screen inside the tank and said lightly. At the same time, he adjusted his earmuffs, not wanting to have tinnitus when firing later. About 10 seconds later, there was a loud boom. Mawei felt that the tank body was obviously shaken backwards. Then a loaded shell was fired from the 125mm muzzle. Suddenly, a huge flame burst out from the muzzle. Then, 2 birch trees on the back hill were hit mercilessly by the artillery fire, and they slowly fell down in the explosion. The other 2 bodyguards who were blocking the site at the foot of the mountain were so scared that they hurriedly hugged their heads, thinking that they were going to be affected. Fortunately, the place where the shells exploded was a long distance away from them. In the end, only the flying soil and bark were blown onto their heads. Mawei looked at the helicopter in the air, which was unscathed. Then he looked at the birch forest in the distance with green smoke. He couldn't help but reach out and brush his forehead. Sure enough, he shouldn't have expected too much from these Russian bodyguards around him. He couldn't even shoot down a plane. Yes, sorry, master. That was a mistake just now. This time I will use a laser-guided missile and I will definitely not miss it. The Russian bodyguard hurriedly turned back to explain to Mawey. He hadn't driven a tank for many years, so he fired the gun crookedly. Hurry up. Mawey waved his hand helplessly. If a war really breaks out, with such a stupid teammate, the army will probably be finished sooner or later. Okay, young master. I will not make a mistake this time. The bodyguard immediately pressed the switch and loaded the 2 laser beam missiles stored inside the vehicle into the smoothbore gun. Then, the optoelectronic system inside the T-90 tank irradiated the laser onto the KAF-37 unmanned helicopter, and then the bodyguard directly pulled the switch and launched the laser beam missile. The launch of a missile is different from that of an artillery shell. An artillery shell requires gunpowder to explode, generate thrust, and push the artillery shell out of the barrel. As for the missile, it has its own power and can move freely in the air or space. Therefore, when it is launched, there is no strong recoil. With a startling bang, a missile with a red flame flew out of the muzzle of the tank. Its flying speed is not as fast as that of an artillery shell, so it can be captured with the naked eye. Mawey could see through the electronic screen that the missile was launched, dragging a tail of smoke and fire, and drawing a beautiful arc in the air towards the unmanned helicopter. The whole process in front of him reminded Mawey of the scene of launching rockets when he was a child. However, this rocket today was hundreds of times larger, and it could not be launched randomly. It was said that it was too late, and before Mawey could think about it, the missile flew out with a boom. It directly hit the helicopter in the sky, almost in an instant. The KAF-37 unmanned helicopter, which was originally flying steadily, exploded instantly. The terrifying explosion, with huge destructive power, completely destroyed the helicopter. The cockpit, propellers, engine and other parts were blown to pieces and flew everywhere. The red flames directly engulfed the helicopter in the air. Then Mawey saw the shattered wreckage of an airplane, falling from the sky with flames. Master, did you see it? This scene is so artistic. The Russian bodyguard driving the tank turned back and shouted excitedly to Mawey. Mawey patted his forehead with his hand. Every word you say is art. Hurry up and open the door. When the Russian bodyguard obeyed the order and opened the hatch of the tank, Mawey immediately smelled the choking smell of diesel and burnt in the air. Mawey couldn't help but take a look at the scrapped Ferrari lying on the left side of the T-90 tank, and then took another look at the wreckage of the KAF-37 unmanned helicopter that was still burning in the distance. This time he was really happy to spend money. In less than half an hour, he destroyed nearly $1.2 million. It was so daunting for the rich. Did you take pictures of the scenes just now? Mawey asked the bodyguard in charge of taking pictures. It's all filmed, master. And the video editor you hired has also arrived at the villa. The filming team said to Mawey very responsibly. Very good, take me to see him. Mawey said, and jumped off the tank directly, then got into the Tiger armored vehicle and roared all the way back to the villa. Mawey can fully earn back the same economic benefits of the $1.2 million that he spent today. He doesn't need to rob Peter to pay Paul. After editing, he can send it to the video website he acquired. In 2000, the concept of internet celebrities was still very new, and no one thought of trying it. As a latecomer, Mawey naturally knew that the economic effect brought by internet celebrities was much greater than that of many stars and actors. Master, the video editor is already in the guest room. Should we call him over now? When Mawey returned to the villa, the butler Ivan respectfully stepped forward and asked Mawey, well, call him over. And is the mask I asked you to prepare ready? Mawey would not show up on the internet and let everyone know about it. So he asked the butler to make a spiral mask. It was a bit similar to the mask worn by Obito in Naruto. The mask is ready, young master. After the butler finished speaking, he opened the wooden box in his hand, which contained the spiral mask specially customized by Mawey. Mawey took the mask casually and found that the quality and pattern were quite good, but it was a bit heavy to wear. Just as he was trying on the mask, the video editor who was called appeared in the living room with a black computer bag on his back. Hello, Mr. Mawey, my name is Ol. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to visit your villa. I heard that you want to edit some videos? The editor asked Mawey with an unusually respectful attitude. Chapter 30 for the first internet celebrity. He was very cautious when asking questions, much more cautious than when he took the entrance examination. The reason was that just now, Ol heard 2 gunshots and 2 explosions in the guest room. This scared him so much that he just wanted to finish the work quickly and go home safely. Making money and so on were secondary. Maweli sat lazily on the sofa, then waved to the video team, signaling them to take out the videotapes they had just shot and give them to the videographer for editing. In 2000, there was no DV, the so-called digital video camera, so the video storage was all reels of videotapes. It takes a special person to edit and convert it before it can be uploaded to the internet. When the video editor played the pictures taken by the bodyguard just now through professional equipment, he knew what had happened just now. Isn't this a Ferrari 550 sports car? It was actually driven over by a tank. And this helicopter, it was actually. The video editor looked at the screen in shock. He really couldn't understand the world of the rich. It was so terrible. They were so extravagant that they used tanks to crush Ferraris and missiles to bomb helicopters. How much money would this cost? He couldn't help but think in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. He could only edit the video seriously while being shocked. It can be said that the videos that Maweli asked his bodyguard to shoot were definitely the most shocking pictures the editor had ever seen. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Maweli took the edited videos and returned to the bedroom. Then he turned on the computer and logged into the VGuest account. The daily traffic of the website was about 8,000. This traffic was still considerable in 2000. It was just that the website didn't know how to operate, so when it was about to go bankrupt, it was acquired by Maweli. Maweli's ID name on VGuest was Mavey, which means Mavey. He logged into the back end of the website and uploaded the edited 15-minute video into 2 parts. The video names were teaching you how to do a Ferrari discus and teaching you how to do a helicopter bomber. At the beginning of each video, there is a picture of him wearing a mask and sitting in the room talking. Hello, VK netizens. I have a video to share with you. If you think it's good, you can follow my ID. There will be more and more exciting videos later. When Maweli uploaded the 2 videos, his account ID did not need to be reviewed and the upload was successful. And the 2 videos will appear directly on the homepage of VK. After uploading the video, Maweli lay on the bed and watched TV for a while. However, just when he left the computer, several American netizens who were browsing on VK video website happened to see the video he posted. Teach you how to do Ferrari discus? What is this? A black guy clicked into the video with a black question mark on his face. Then, he was immediately attracted by the T90 tank and Ferrari 550 clips at the beginning of the video. WTF. WTF. When the guy concentrated on watching the T90 tank, it crushed the Ferrari sports car like a mountain. The black guy's facial expression was so rich and wonderful. WTF. 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 He sat in front of the computer and said WTF 3 times in a row, which means WTF in Chinese. Then he quickly drank a big sip of water to calm down. Then he hurriedly opened Maweli's second video, teaching you how to bomb a helicopter. This time, the black guy watched the video with psychological preparation. But when he saw the T-90 tank ruthlessly firing a missile at the Ka-37 helicopter, the black guy was stunned when he put half of the cup of water in his hand. Strictly speaking, he was completely stunned. Oh my god. This can't be real. Are you filming a movie? The black guy couldn't imagine who in the world would be so crazy to destroy a Ferrari sports car worth nearly $500,000 and a helicopter worth nearly $700,000 like this. Rich man. If you don't want these, you can give them to me. It's so bad to waste them like this. The black guy watched the video with great distress and fully felt the ruthless crushing of the rich world. In order to avoid being cheated alone, the black guy immediately sent the video URL to his schoolmates and friends. He also asked them not to drink water while watching the video, so as not to damage their computers. About an hour later, when Maweli returned to the computer and wanted to see the online reaction, he suddenly found that his account ID had more than 1,300 followers, and there were more than 200 netizens leaving messages on the message board of the video. Oh my god. This video is so amazing. Ferrari Discus, the method is really awesome. 500,000 US dollars. Isn't this a T-90 tank and a Ka-37 helicopter? Oh my god. Such an expensive helicopter was blown up by a missile? I watched the second video first, and I thought it was a movie scene at first. But after a closer look, this explosion scene can't be filmed in a movie at all. Which rich man is so crazy? I will be your fan from now on. By the way, your mask is very handsome. Maweli looked at the comments under the video and experienced the taste of being an internet celebrity. His 2 videos were forwarded crazily on the internet. The total number of views within an hour reached 4,700. It was more than 10 times higher than those other miscellaneous videos. When will the bullet screen, likes, and reward functions be launched? Maweli was thinking about these functions. He couldn't create them too quickly. At least he had to wait until computers became popular and the traffic of video websites increased before launching them. Otherwise, competing companies would imitate them in advance, and he would lose his advantage. While Maweli was thinking about this, the number of followers of his V-Guest ID was constantly increasing. Soon it increased from more than 1,300 to 1,800. Including the message board. More and more netizens left messages saying that they liked his videos very much. I hope he will keep up the good work and keep going. These all represent the support of netizens for him, which also makes Maweli experience an indescribable wonderful feeling. It's a bit like being followed by the crowd and the little enjoyment after being noticed by the crowd. After Maweli simply read the messages, he turned off the computer and prepared to go to the bathroom to take a shower. Fans and such were just a side thing, just for entertainment. But after a while, even Maweli himself did not expect that the 2 videos he uploaded would become a reference for some rich second-generation Americans to imitate. Driving a giant truck to crush a Toyota, driving a bulldozer to overturn a pickup truck, using a hammer to break a Rolex watch, using a shotgun to shoot a Mercedes-Benz. These videos were uploaded to vk.com, which made Maweli accidentally bring a wave of rhythm. The website traffic increased by 40%. And it is still rising. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Alpha Special Forces. T-90 tank video was circulating on Maweli's Amazon and Google companies were also developing steadily, including his V account. The number of fans has increased to more than 12,000. Almost every day, someone left a message, hoping that he would make more cool videos. Maweli had his servant shoot many videos of missiles blowing up luxury cars and artillery shells bombing helicopters. He released one almost every week. This not only led the trend of young people, but also made many local tyrants follow suit, uploading their destruction videos on V to gain fans. It has to be said that the concept of internet celebrities and fans is very attractive. Since V Video introduced these 2 concepts, based on the proposal of its boss Maweli, the daily traffic of the website has been rising steadily. It has also attracted users of many other video websites to upload videos to V. In 2000, the economy of the United States developed very rapidly. Whether it was the internet or various other technology companies, they all rose very quickly. On the other hand, Russia's economy was declining step by step. This problem is very serious for Russia. In fact, Russians are generally not very good at economics. For example, at a meeting, the Minister of Agriculture actually said in front of everyone that he would sell pork to Indonesia. But the belief there is not to eat pork. It can be seen that there is such a group of pig teammates, which is more trouble than good. It may take a long time for Russia's economy to get better. So, Maweli's development strategy is like this. Use American companies as economic support to nourish his military industry in Russia and private armed forces. That is the security company he had conceived before. Then acquire military factories, open branches all over the world, and strengthen this legal armed force. Then, he will be awesome. Those rivals in the business world will take a detour when they see him. So, Maweli directly summoned his bodyguards and asked everyone, do you know any security personnel? Or did you know any comrades when you served in the army before? I'm going to open a security company recently and need some manpower. Recruiting people from outside is not very reliable, and there are too many good and bad people. So Maweli directly asked his confidants to recommend candidates, which is very guaranteed. Hearing the young master suddenly ask this question, the Russian bodyguards looked at each other, not understanding why the young master suddenly wanted to open a security company. There are more than 3,000 security companies in Russia. However, due to his master's status, everyone still obeyed his orders and answered one by one. Young master, I happen to have 3 former comrades here, and they are looking for jobs recently. Young master, I know 2 friends who retired from the Alpha Special Forces last week. Now they are also considering new jobs. A burly Russian bodyguard provided Maweli with a very good message. Alpha Special Forces? Maweli raised his eyebrows after hearing this. According to his memory, the Alpha Special Forces is one of the famous special forces in Russia, and its combat effectiveness is very strong. The team members generally have special skills. They are snipers, demolition experts and communication experts. They are good at secret operations and reconnaissance missions, and they can remain calm and clear-minded under strong pressure. It is one of the top 3 anti-terrorist forces in the world today. The security company that Maweli opened needs elite talents like the Alpha Force. However, the purpose of opening a security company is just to legally form his own private armed forces. He does not want to cooperate with the national level and send special forces to fight in Afghanistan and Syria, which will cause trouble. He does not want to make money from the blood and life of war, nor does he want to get deeply involved in it. That's why he planned the American internet industry in advance to achieve financial freedom. You go and contact them, Maweli said to the bodyguard. The Alpha Special Forces are anti-terrorist warriors who kill without blinking an eye. After many people retire from the army, they either open their own mercenary security companies and cooperate with the country, or they serve as bodyguards for important people, or simply become killers themselves. Although these people are ruthless and murderous, they have one good advantage. That is to abide by their promises and have their own firm beliefs. Even if there is a threat of death, they will not give up easily. Okay, young master. The black-clad bodyguard standing in front of him nodded and said. 2 weeks later, outside a large training base in the suburbs of Moscow, a silver Land Rover Defender Jeep drove to the gate of the base on time. Sitting in the car were 2 Russian men of medium build and ordinary appearance. They looked to be around 30 years old, dressed in ordinary clothes, and wore dark coats. Generally, such people walking on the road are easily overlooked. But the staff in charge of the gate opened the iron gate with a serious face, after verifying the identities of the 2 people and let the car in. The reason is that the identities of these 2 people are exactly the members of the famous Alpha Special Forces in Russia. When the Land Rover Defender slowly drove into the training base, the black-haired man sitting in the co-pilot seat asked his friend while chewing gum, "Who is the person I will meet later?" Due to his previous work environment, the black-haired man spoke briefly. His name is Stepan, and he has served in the Alpha Special Forces for 8 years. The one who was driving was named Victor. He looked a little vicissitudes, but his eyes were extremely sharp. He served in the Alpha Special Forces for 10 years. Stepan served for 2 years. Victor's voice was relatively low. While driving the Land Rover Defender, he answered to Stepan. It is said that he is an arms dealer who wants to open a security company recently. After hearing this, Stepan chewed his gum and said nothing. He and Victor just retired from the army last week. Recently, they also plan to form a partnership and try to open a security company. However, this idea is still under consideration. After all, security companies need connections and reputation. There are about 3,000 security companies of varying sizes in Russia. The competition is very fierce, and it is not easy to become big. When the 2 drove the Land Rover Defender to a white building, there were several Tiger armored vehicles and off-road vehicles parked in the parking space downstairs. At this time, Stepan smiled and said to Victor, "It seems that there are quite a few people here today. Well, let's go and take a look first." Victor said, opened the car door, and then went upstairs with Stepan. Bodyguards were patrolling in all the corridors of the building with weapons in hand. When the two men entered the corridor, Russian bodyguards in suits came forward to search them to see if they had any dangerous weapons. Chapter 36, Live action version of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. When they arrived at the door of the conference room, Victor and Stepan had to pass through a metal detector. Only after confirming that everything was fine could they enter the venue and meet with their employer. I didn't expect this man to be so cautious, Stepan said to Victor with a smile. After passing through the metal detector, with Mawey's security measures, it would be difficult for him and Victor to deal with it, even if they joined forces. For those of us in this line of work, it's better to be cautious. Victor glanced at the black-clad bodyguards guarding the door. Judging from his more than 10 years of practical experience, the bodyguards in the entire building are not the kind of vegetarians who are good for nothings. It can be seen that the employer they are going to meet today is not an ordinary person. However, just as Victor was thinking this, he saw two short-haired men in dark coats walking around the corner of the corridor. The height and appearance of the two men were similar to those of Victor and Stepan. They were the kind of passers-by who were inconspicuous in the crowd and would be forgotten in a blink of an eye. At this time, Victor and Stepan turned their heads at the same time and looked at the two people who were walking, because they looked like they were not Russians, but Americans. There is an invisible aura between powerful people. Ordinary people may not be able to perceive this aura, but those who know the business can tell it at a glance. After all, everyone is the same kind of people. The two American men who walked to the corner slowed down their pace almost at the same time. They carefully observed Victor and Stepan. Let's go. Victor signaled Stepan to enter the venue first. It is estimated that this meeting will not be simple. However, just as he pushed open the door and prepared to enter the conference room, the moment the door opened, 4 groups of people were already sitting in the huge conference room. And looking at the aura of each of them, it is obvious that they should not be underestimated. There are even 2 people in the crowd who are known by Victor and Stepan. That is the Signal Flag Special Operations Force, which is as famous as the Alpha Special Forces in Russia. From the overall combat effectiveness analysis, the Signal Flag Special Forces and Alpha are on paragraph. However, when it comes to international fame and influence, the Signal Flag is a level higher than Alpha. After all, the main business of Signal Flag is foreign anti-terrorism activities. Alpha, on the other hand, is domestic. After seeing old acquaintances, both Victor and Stepan were secretly surprised. They didn't expect that the employer they were going to meet today would be so ambitious. Even the retired Special Forces members of Signal Flag were called over. What kind of security company is he going to open? This question of Victor and Stepan was also what the 4 groups of people present, including the 2 Americans who came in later, thought. Among these groups of people, there are not only former members of the Signal Flag Special Station, but also former members of the US Delta Special Forces, former members of the British Special Air Service, as well as former Marines, former Secret Service agents, former Navy SEALs, etc. These internationally renowned Special Forces members only know that they were hired by their employers with a large sum of money and invited to the Russian training base to participate in the assessment. But they don't know how the assessment should be conducted. When 6 groups of people, a total of 12 elites, gathered in the conference room. At this time, the closed-circuit television on the wall was suddenly turned on automatically. Then, a Russian man sitting in a reclining chair appeared on the screen. That is, Mavey himself. Thank you all for coming to participate in the security assessment of our company. In 2 hours, our staff will lead you to the assessment site. During the assessment, everyone's performance will be recorded. Please take it seriously, Mavey said to everyone in a concise and clear manner on the closed-circuit television. And the several elites present, even including Stepan and others, to be honest, did not take this so-called security assessment very seriously in their hearts. After all, they came from the Alpha Special Forces and the Delta Special Forces, and they had seen all kinds of big scenes. It is estimated that with their own skills, it would be easy to win this security assessment. But when Stepan and others thought so, Mavey said to everyone lightly, this assessment will be conducted in groups of 2. The group that wins the assessment will get $1.2 million US. As soon as Mavey's voice fell, the 12 elites present were surprised. If you win the assessment, you can get 1.2 million US dollars. Stepan and others couldn't help thinking in their hearts. At the same time, the casual expressions on their faces gradually became serious. Because 1.2 million US dollars is already a great temptation for Stepan and others. Even if they become killers for this money, some of them are definitely willing. Mr. Mavey, I have a question for you. What is the assessment you just mentioned? I'm afraid the assessment is not that simple with a reward of 1.2 million US dollars. Can you tell us first? Victor asked Mavey. He was not too tempted by money and was still somewhat rational. Mavey smiled after hearing this and then simply said to everyone, the assessment is conducted in the form of actual combat exercises and will not involve your personal safety. There will be staff to explain it to you later. After speaking, Mavey clapped his hands. Then the camera turned and a black suitcase appeared. When the suitcase was opened, 1.2 million US dollars in cash were neatly placed inside. The 12 elites in the meeting room couldn't help but focus their eyes on the pile of green US dollars. Mavey saw everyone's expressions. The practical assessment he made was inspired by the live-action version of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. That is, let these 6 groups of elites appear in 6 locations in the training ground, surrounded by weapons and ammunition scattered everywhere. The team members need to kill the other 5 groups of opponents through improvisation and cooperation to achieve the final victory. Of course, the ammunition used in the actual combat exercise is blank bullets. As long as the user pays attention, it generally does not cause casualties. Including some details in the actual combat exercise, the staff will repeatedly emphasize it. Everyone must sign an agreement and abide by the assessment system before the exercise. Mavey will closely monitor the battlefield situation through dozens of closed-circuit televisions in the room. Accompanying him are behavioral psychologists, tactical trainers and other related people he invited. In this way, Mavey can clearly know everyone's personality, ideas, and combat experience after 3 exercises. This will enable him to better find the talents he wants. After all, these people will become his direct troops in the future, so he has to carefully select his confidants. Chapter 37. Really good at playing. 20 minutes later, the staff led the 6 groups of elites to 6 rooms respectively, and then explained the assessment rules to them. At the same time, outside the training base, luxury cars were driving to the gate of the base one after another. After confirming their identities, they drove into the base one by one in an orderly manner. The owners of these luxury cars all have a close cooperative relationship with the Mavey family. They were invited to attend the special party held by Mavey. It is said that this party is definitely something that no one has ever experienced. More than an hour later, when more than 30 wealthy people who received the invitation arrived at the party one by one, everyone found that the layout of the entire venue was completely different from the parties they had attended before. There were many electronic display screens arranged around. The wealthy stood at the venue with an inexplicable expression and had no idea what Mavey was going to do. However, considering the past friendship, no one came out to cause trouble. Instead, they drank red wine and chatted with each other, patiently waiting for the host of the party to appear. About 10 minutes later, Mavey, wearing casual clothes, finally entered the venue. At this time, some Russian tycoons who were full of questions about the party gathered in front of him and asked him, "Mavey, what kind of party is this? Why are there so many monitors around? Mavey, what is the theme of your party? Why is it held in broad daylight instead of at night?" A second-generation rich man who had a good relationship with Mavey asked Mavey with a glass of red wine in his hand. Faced with these questions from the crowd, Mavey did not answer immediately. Instead, he signaled the staff at the venue to turn on the largest electronic screen. Then, the more than 30 tycoons present saw a place similar to a field training ground on the big screen. There were wooden houses, farms, large tracts of green grass and tall trees. As the big screen turned on, the electronic screens around the venue also turned on. The Russian tycoons could clearly see that 6 teams appeared at the edge of the field training ground. Each team consisted of 2 people, but they were all unarmed, without even bulletproof vests or a handy weapon. As soon as these pictures appeared at the party, many Russian tycoons present were even more confused. What is this filming? What are these people doing? Why are there AK-47s and bulletproof vests on the floor of the room? Is that sniper rifle a 98K? Is that ammunition next to it? Since there was no chicken game in 2000, the more than 30 tycoons present could not understand what Maweli was going to do. However, just when they were full of questions, Maweli spoke lightly and said to everyone, "Everyone, please be quiet. What you are seeing now is the bodyguard assessment of my Wii security company. The 6 teams that appear on the screen will fight in the training ground later." As soon as Maweli finished speaking, the more than 30 tycoons standing around suddenly showed a hint of novelty on their faces and looked at each other. This is the first time that everyone has seen such an interesting bodyguard assessment. Bodyguard assessment? Fighting each other? This seems interesting. So these weapons and ammunition in the room are for these 6 groups to take and then fight? Is this assessment real or fake? I mean, are they really shooting and killing people? Because this real life version of PUBG that Maweli made is really interesting. So the rich people present immediately got into the state and wanted to know how this assessment was conducted. You will know if you watch it. Maweli knows how to whet people's appetite. The reason why he invited these rich people to come is actually to pave the way for the security company he is about to establish. After all, only rich people will spend money to hire bodyguards. And the quality of bodyguards can only be clearly seen through comparison. Seeing that Maweli was mysterious and said nothing, the rich people dispersed and came to the electronic screen, ready to watch it for themselves. At this time, the food and wine at the party venue could no longer attract them, because nothing is more exciting than fighting on the battlefield. Maweli also paid attention to the screen. He was looking forward to the way the 6 teams of elites would fight. After all, they were all special forces or agents. This real-life version of PUBG was not something that ordinary people could play. Just as Maweli and others were looking at the electronic screen like this. In the field training ground, the 6 teams of elites had quickly approached their respective cabins and picked up various resources in the cabins as quickly as possible. For example, pistols, sniper rifles, MP5 submachine guns, bulletproof vests, bulletproof helmets, and bullets. Victor. It seems that someone is coming from the opposite side. Stepan, who was in the cabin, had just put on his bulletproof helmet halfway when he saw that there seemed to be a figure flashing outside the window. The assessment organized by Maweli was mainly based on killing and scoring. Successfully killing an enemy will get 1 point. After the 3 games, the team with the most points will be considered the winner. Such rules can allow more fights between teams, more tactical highlights, and strength shows. At the same time, it can also allow the behavioral psychologists and tactical trainers arranged by Maweli to accurately judge the performance of each team member. Every move between masters is a test of life and death. As soon as Stepan showed his head, the Marines who came in from outside fired the AUG rifles in their hands. With 2 gunshots, the window frame was shot through by bullets, and sawdust was raised. The more than 30 wealthy people in the venue were concentrating. They were afraid that they would miss the wonderful scene. Attack them from both sides. Seeing the enemy coming outside, Victor picked up the AK-47 in his hand and went out from the side door. He tried to cooperate with Stepan, using the building as cover, to attack them from both sides. The tactical coordination of the two was very good, and they quickly suppressed the US Marines who came to attack. However, the opponent was obviously not a vegetarian. After discovering that Victor and the other 2 had stronger firepower than themselves, the Marines fought and retreated, preparing to find another way to attack. The fight between the Russians and the Americans also attracted a 3rd team, which was 2 former members of the British Special Air Service. The 2 British men, one holding an M4 assault rifle and the other holding a Desert Eagle pistol, tried to take advantage of the situation and come to pick up the spoils. At the same time, in another part of the training ground, 2 members of the Signal Flag Special Forces also successfully exchanged fire with the American Delta Special Forces. The 2 sides fought hard and neither of them got the upper hand. The more than 30 wealthy people in the venue were so shocked that they couldn't even turn their eyes away. Chapter 38 Burj Al Arab. You have to pay attention to this and that. If you are not careful, you may miss the wonderful shots. Mr. Mawey, these assessment team members on TV, they don't seem to be ordinary bodyguards, right? At this time, a Russian businessman who was staring at the screen asked Mawey without turning back. Mawey was also paying attention to the situation and had no time to look elsewhere. So he didn't turn around, but said directly, yes, they are retired from the Signal Flag Special Forces, Alpha Special Forces, and Delta Special Forces. And the one holding a 98K on the screen is a former Secret Service agent, Mawey said to the businessman in a faint tone. However, the people who were listening around couldn't help but feel a little shocked. Signal Flag? Alpha? Delta Special Forces? No wonder I said these bodyguards are so powerful. They feel much better than those good-for-nothings around me. A Russian businessman with a cigar in his mouth couldn't help but sighed. There are many people who share the same idea as him. After all, compared to the bodyguards from ordinary security companies, the 6 teams that Mawey found are definitely the elite among the elites. Just as everyone was sighing, a red-dressed lady in the venue came to Mawey with the glittering jewel. How much does this male bodyguard on the screen cost per year? I like him. Make an offer. The red-dressed young woman's family is in the fur business, and the business is quite big, and there are usually many bodyguards around her. It's a pity that none of them can satisfy her. So she took a fancy to Victor, a member of the Alpha Special Forces who was exchanging fire with others in the picture. I think he is good at fighting and very charming. Mawey smiled after hearing this. He didn't expect that someone was more anxious than him. The assessment had just begun, and the young woman couldn't help but want to buy a man from him. It seems that Mawey has to be the title of human trafficker. I'm sorry, I have other uses for the man you like, so I can't make an offer. Mawey answered the young woman simply and clearly. As soon as he finished speaking, the young woman in red standing in front of him couldn't help but look at Mawey seriously and said, I'll pay $200,000 to buy him for a year. Why don't you let me have him? The young woman in red offered $200,000 very generously. This price can hire a football team of bodyguards in Russia. However, as soon as she finished offering the price, another noble woman standing nearby raised her right hand and said, I'll pay $250,000. I want this man. It must be said that Mawey's party was very lively. Such a novel actual combat, plus live broadcast, makes every rich man present feel immersive and involved. So their desire to consume naturally rises. Moreover, there are more than 30 rich people present, and there are only 12 bodyguards. There will definitely be a fight, so it is better to start in advance. This, I can't let you. Mawey still refused to say to the 2 young women. Victor is mature and calm, and has certain leadership skills. In Mawey's eyes, it was a bit of a waste of talent to let him serve as a bodyguard, even if he was the top one. As the saying goes, a bad soldier makes a bad general. Such a good piece of material should naturally be recruited to become his direct force. At that time, he will be given a whole special forces team, which will definitely have super combat effectiveness. Seeing that Mawey refused to agree, the young woman in red thought about it carefully and planned to spend $150,000 to hire Victor's teammate, Stepan. There were also dozens of wealthy people standing around who had the same consumption desire as her. None of the bodyguards around them could compare to the 12 people in the picture. So they really wanted to have such a powerful bodyguard to protect them closely. This can greatly increase the safety factor. Mr. Mawey, how much does this person earn a year? A Russian businessman with a big belly asked, pointing to a team member of the Signal Flag in the picture. Almost at the same time, another bald Russian tycoon asked Mawey, how much does it cost to hire those 2 British guys together? Orders came in like a tide before the assessment was over. Fortunately, Mawey had signed an agreement with the 12 team members in advance. That is, if you want to participate in the assessment and win the $1.2 million award, you need to acquiesce to these. After the 3 rounds of assessment, Mawey hired 9 team members for $3.15 million. This amount includes the cost of hiring for 1 year, and there are also 2 or 3 years of hiring. As for the remaining 3 team members, it is not that they are not popular, but that Mawey intends to recruit them as his own private armed forces. After the promotion of this live-action version of PUBG, Mawei's Wii security company has already had a certain influence in the circle of wealthy people in Moscow. Even after the assessment, some wealthy people who were Amway wanted to spend money to hire bodyguards from him. But they did not get a clear answer from Mawei, because at this time, he was watching the recorded assessment video in the room. That is, the original battle video of Victor and others. Based on this video, it should be good to find someone to make a game like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds in the future, right? Mawei thought to himself while watching the video. Then, he suddenly remembered something and quickly opened the web page. Then he was surprised to find that the shooting game Counter-Strike that was supposed to be released in the summer of 1999 was not available in this parallel world. It is the ancestor of shooting games such as Crossfire and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Mawei, who was checking the information on the webpage, began to think. The game industry is also one of the highly profitable industries. He can completely rely on his past life memories to create a game company that is popular all over the world. This will also make his life more colorful, and the game industry makes money faster. During the 2 days that Mawei was thinking, he also received an invitation from the opening of a hotel. This hotel is not an ordinary hotel. It is very awesome. The cost in 1994 was $1.5 billion US. Master, the Burj Al Arab Hotel in Dubai has officially opened. Your friend Al-Qadullah invites you to go there for 2 days. What do you think? Butler Ivan asked Mawei, who was lying on the bed and doing a massage. Sailboat hotel? Mawei's mind was filled with a hotel that looked like a sailboat built on an artificial island in the Arabian Gulf. Yes, master, I heard that the hotel was built in 1994, which is 6 years ago. Ivan added to Mawei. Yes, I know. Let's arrange the itinerary. Whether in his previous life or this life, Mawei had never been to Dubai, nor had he stayed at the 7-star Burj Al Arab Hotel. Chapter 39 A Room Full of Gold. Whether in his previous life or this life, Mawei had never been to Dubai, nor had he stayed at the 7-star Burj Al Arab. So it was necessary to experience it and think about the game company's affairs clearly. Then use the gold-plated toilet paper to experience the daily life of the rich in the Middle East. It seems not bad. Okay, young master. The butler immediately arranged the itinerary according to Mawei's instructions. 3 days later, at Dubai Airport, when the Gulfstream G200 aircraft landed smoothly on the airport platform, Mawei saw this city built in the desert. In 2000, many places in Dubai were under construction, and it was not as prosperous as in later generations. The only iconic building was the newly opened Burj Al Arab. The city under Mawei's feet was completely built up with money and imagination. It is the city with the fastest real estate appreciation in the world, and it is also the fastest declining. When the financial crisis broke out in 2009, many people went bankrupt overnight here. Countless luxury cars were abandoned in the city and finally buried under sand and dust. Master, Mr. Al-Qadullah's car has arrived at the airport. Butler Ivan looked out the window and saw a sky blue Lamborghini Diablo leading 2 silver BMWs heading towards the G200 plane. When the plane door opened, Mawei, dressed in plain casual clothes, slowly walked down the plane. At the same time, the Lamborghini Diablo in front of him also opened its scissor doors, and a man with dark skin and Arab clothes in a white hat walked out of the car. Oh, Mawei, my good friend. Welcome to Dubai. The man in the white hat came up and gave Mawei a hug. His thick and untidy beard made Mawei a little avoid him. Long time no see, Al-Qadullah. Mawei didn't remember who the man in the white hat was. It was just that the butler just introduced that the Al-Qadullah family's business was very diverse, mainly various wrestling and gold trading. Al-Qadullah smiled and patted Mawei on the shoulder, then said to him, "Get in the car. My friend, I'll take you to experience the most luxurious hotel in the world. I've already arranged a room for you. Life is easy when you are rich and powerful. As soon as you get off the plane, you will be picked up by friends. If it was someone else, I'm afraid they would have to do everything by themselves, and the key is that they don't know anyone." The Lamborghini sports car drove on the road for about half an hour, and Mawei saw the Dubai Burj Al Arab Hotel that he had always remembered. With blue sky and white clouds, blue sea and golden sand, the hotel really stands in the sea like a giant sailboat. Let the waves and sea breeze wash it. How about it, Maweli, our Arabian star? The appearance is not bad, right? Al-Qadullah said proudly to Maweli. Well, it's really good. Maweli remembered that the hotel in front of him cost $1.5 billion. It took more than 3 years to reclaim the island in the Arabian Gulf. It is said that 15 tons of gold and 40 tons of steel were used. He had to admit the generosity of the Dubai royal family. When Al-Qadullah parked the car in front of the sailboat hotel, he took Maweli into the lobby. Maweli found himself in a palace made of gold, with golden light everywhere. The stone pillars, the front desk, the ceiling, and almost all the visible places were plated with a layer of real gold. It made people feel the luxury from the Middle East at once. Moreover, such gold plating would not make people feel sick. It combined with the Arabic design style, making the hotel seal look both high-end and atmospheric. Maweli, my friend, the gold bars I promised you on the phone are already piled up in your room, Al-Qadullah said to Maweli with a smile while riding the elevator. The gold bars he was talking about were naturally the kind made of gold. Gold bars? Due to partial memory loss, Maweli could not remember what gold bars were. But when he came to the royal suite on the 26th floor of the hotel, Maweli found that there were 6 or 7 open black suitcases on the floor of his master bedroom. And the suitcases were covered with glittering gold bars. Each gold bar was shining brightly, and the specification was 1 kilogram. They showed a golden color, and the area scattered was the same as a bed. Take it out, and let Maweli sleep on it directly. Gold is a valuable item that preserves and increases its value. According to the memory of the previous life, the international gold price trend reached an all-time high of $1,860 per ounce in July 2011. The price in 2000 was $280 per ounce. Maweli looked at the gold bars on the ground and felt that the picture was too visually impactful. However, at this time, the little white hat Al-Qadullah smiled and patted Maweli on the shoulder and then said to him, my friend, I wish you a good time in Dubai. This gold was the final payment for the previous business between the two parties. Al-Qadullah placed the gold bars at the Burj Al Arab Hotel and waited for Maweli to go over and count them. There were a total of 100 gold bars on the ground, which was 100 kilograms, worth more than $1 million. Looking at the gold bars all over the floor, Maweli suddenly turned around and called to Al-Qadullah, who was walking to the door. Wait a minute. Huh? What's the matter, friend? Is the number of gold bars wrong? Little White Hat asked Maweli with a puzzled expression. From the housekeeper's silent nod, Maweli could analyze that the number of gold bars was correct. But at this moment, he suddenly remembered that there was still $310 million in his bank card and nowhere to spend it. So Maweli said to Al-Qadullah lightly, the number of gold bars is correct, but I want to buy more. Hearing that Maweli was actually interested in gold, Al-Qadullah smiled and asked Maweli, oh, friend, how many do you want to buy? At this time, Maweli stretched out his right hand, then slowly flicked out a finger and said, another 1,000. As soon as the voice fell, Al-Qadullah, who was standing in front of him, raised his eyebrows and expressed some surprise. He originally saw Maweli raising a finger and thought he wanted another 100 gold bars, which is $1.05 million. But what was unexpected was that Maweli actually asked for 10,000 gold bars. That is $10.5 million. This is the gold trading volume of their family for nearly half a year. Okay, then I'll make a call right away. The $10 million transaction made Al-Qadullah very excited. However, in Maweli's eyes, this money was just a small change from the 10 million in the bank deposit, and he wanted to spend it by the way. Anyway, it's not cost effective to keep it and earn interest. It's better to buy a small amount of gold to preserve and increase its value. After Al-Qadullah finished the call, he rubbed his hands excitedly and came to Maweli. Mr. Maweli, the gold bars you want are being prepared for you. It is expected that the transaction will be completed this afternoon. Okay. Maweli nodded lightly. Chapter 40. Airlifting sports cars to Europe. I have to say that people have a strong ability to adapt. I remember when he was just reborn, he was still reluctant to give up the Mercedes-Benz C230 that cost $90,000. However, 3 weeks later, facing a gold transaction of $10 million, he could also become like a real rich man, easily handling it. By the way, Mr. Maweli, are you free next week? Several of my friends are going to Europe for 2 days. Maybe I can invite you to go with them? Akadullah asked Maweli enthusiastically. What he said about going to Europe with friends for 2 days was not the so-called European tour. It was a traditional entertainment project for the rich in Dubai. It was to airlift their luxury cars and sports cars to various European countries, and then arrogantly bomb the streets there. This tradition just became popular last year. It was soon loved by the rich in Dubai. After all, in the city of Dubai, sports cars can only be driven in the city center. If you go far away, it's just a desert, and there is no ghost on the road, let alone people. And there are many rich people around, so it's not uncommon to have 2 sports cars. No one will watch this show. It would be better to go to Europe and enjoy the attention of European people and European beauties. Looking at the little white hat in front of him who was trying hard to invite him, Maweli thought for a while and said, okay. Anyway, he didn't have anything to do these 2 days, and it seemed good to go to Europe with this group of Dubai princelings to have fun. A week later, Maweli took his G200 special plane to France. As for the Dubai princelings, who were traveling with him, some of them sat in the first class cabin of the 747 together, and some, like Maweli, took their own private plane to France. Maweli asked the butler to find a security company to transport the 1,000 gold bars he bought from Al-Qadullah last week back to Russia. It is definitely not possible to transport more than a ton of gold by himself. The risk is too high. If something unexpected happens on the way, he will have to eat it all by himself, and there is no way to find someone to claim compensation. It is better to spend some money and let a professional company transport it. When Maweli's G200 plane arrived at the Paris airport in France, the Dubai princelings who were traveling with him had already gathered outside the airport terminal, waiting for the shipping company to deliver their cars. The crowded French airport terminal is the first stop of their European street tour. So when Maweli came to the terminal with his bodyguards, he found that among a group of dark-skinned white-hatted people, his dress and skin color were very standing out from the crowd. Almost all the tourists passing by would turn their heads and look at him. After taking a look at the white-hatted people, it made Maweli seem like a translator or tour guide for the white-hatted people. Invisibly, Maweli was tricked. At this time, a bearded Dubai man smiled and greeted Maweli. Friend, are you the Russian friend of Al-Qadullah? Let me introduce myself. My name is AMR. Nice to meet you. Because Al-Qadullah was sick these 2 days, he did not come to Europe to bomb the streets. He just introduced Maweli to his group of friends. Anyway, everyone has similar interests. Hello, AMR. Maweli stretched out his hand and shook hands with the other party. Amr is the 2nd generation of oil in Dubai. His family owns a small oil field valued at $600 million. Like all the 2nd generation of rich people, Amr likes sports cars and beautiful women. They can have 4 wives in Dubai. Hello, my friend. Your car will follow us later. We will go to the Eiffel Tower first, then to the Champs-Élysées and the Seine River. Amr asked Maweli's car to follow their motorcade, and he didn't take care of the rest. After all, the 2 sides were just introduced by friends, and were not very familiar with each other. Maweli just nodded after listening. At this time, his bodyguard received a call saying that the sports car they had airlifted from Russia had arrived at the airport. Master, the car is ready, and on the way now. The burly Russian bodyguard said respectfully to Maweli. Just as he was talking, there was a small commotion among the crowd of tourists in the airport terminal. Then Maweli saw a van driving outside the terminal, slowly opening its side compartment horizontally. Inside the carriage, 4 super sports cars were neatly parked in 2 rows. In order, they were the orange McLaren F1, the pure black Jaguar XJR15, the sky blue Jaguar XJ220, and the red Ferrari F50. As soon as these 4 super sports cars appeared, they immediately attracted the attention of countless passers-by. Many people seemed to be under a spell and stopped to look at the sports cars. Even some tourists with cameras immediately picked up their cameras and took pictures of this scene. However, before they could open the camera case, another closed box truck drove over in a hurry. When the side of the carriage slowly opened, some people in the terminal who wanted to leave were immediately attracted by the 4 sports cars in the carriage. Bright yellow Porsche 911 GT1, pure white Ferrari 360, dark green Aston Martin V8, and sky blue Bugatti Ed 110. The appearance of these 8 super sports cars attracted a crowd of male and female tourists outside the terminal. There were also several women who didn't know much about sports cars. They pestered their friends or lovers and asked them what the 8 sports cars were called. They looked really cool. Wow, is that blue one Bugatti? And that one is Jaguar XJR15. They are all good cars. A male fan who loves sports cars couldn't help but sigh while taking pictures. Maweli, has your car been delivered? If it hasn't arrived yet, we can meet in the city center then. At this time, Amma smiled and greeted Maweli, meaning that if it took too long, they would not wait for Maweli. After all, the two sides were not familiar with each other. After saying hello, Amma and his princeling friends walked to the driveway outside the terminal. When they were ready to unload the sports cars, they would march directly into Paris. In the eyes of Amma and his friends, they only knew that Maweli was Russian and had business dealings with Al-Qadra. As for more information, Amma was not clear. Anyway, everyone was just out for fun, so there was no need to know. There was no intention to look down on him or pick a fight with him. It was just that without wasting the time of both parties, he and Maweli went for a drive in Paris and had a street show. After hearing this, Maweli stretched his neck and walked out of the terminal without saying anything. The rich people in Dubai in 2000 only knew how to buy those limited edition sports cars, but they didn't know much about the art of modified cars. To put it bluntly, they haven't opened their minds yet. Chapter 41: The Charm of Modified Cars. Just as the 8 sports cars that had just been transported began to be unloaded in an orderly manner, 2 civilian Hummers were seen driving steadily in the distance of the driveway. As soon as these 2 civilian Hummers appeared, they immediately attracted the attention of some passers-by. Look over there, what are those 2? Pure silver Hummers? A man pointed to the distance and said to his companion. His companion looked in the direction of his finger and found 2 silver shining Hummers driving towards the terminal. The color of these 2 Hummers is not ordinary silver. Instead, it is like polished silverware, shining with a dazzling color. This Hummer feels much larger than the average Hummer. The companion looked carefully at the car that was coming. However, it would not matter if he didn't look at it. He was slightly surprised when he saw it, because at this moment, he suddenly found that the 2 Hummers that were coming actually had 6 wheels, not 4. Oh my god. 6-wheeled pure silver Hummer? This is the first time I've seen it. As more and more passers-by noticed, Amma, who was watching the unloading of the truck, and his Dubai friends also turned their heads to see what the passers-by were looking at. When Amma and others saw clearly that it was actually 2 modified 6-wheeled Hummers, the expressions on Amma and his friends' faces seemed to be amazed. Haha. It turns out that Hummers can be played like this. This trip to Europe has really broadened my horizons. Amma clapped his hands and laughed. Yes, the people who modified these 2 cars are really talented. When I go back this time, I will also change my Jaguar to pure silver. Oh, no, it's pure gold. A Dubai princeling next to him said with admiration. Although they were amazed by the 6-wheeled Hummer, they were not surprised. After all, the group of people from Dubai are all rich second generations with family assets of over 100 million. They will not be surprised casually, as if they have never seen the world. There are not many things in the world that can make them feel amazed. But, just when Amma and others were clapping their hands, they saw a closed box truck coming behind the 2 silver Hummers. It looked like the 2 6-wheeled Hummers were escorting the truck. A minute later, when the box truck drove all the way to the airport terminal, the side door of the car slowly fell. A gorgeous sports car that no one had ever seen appeared in front of Amma and others. What is this car? Amma looked at the sports car in front of him without blinking, feeling that it was familiar and unfamiliar. The doors and windows of the sports car were familiar, a bit like his Bugatti Ed 110. But the front and rear parts of the car were much fatter than his Bugatti Ed 110, which made people feel very impressed. In addition to the different appearance of the car, the color and pattern of the sports car were also something that Amma and others had never seen before. It was a green glaze color with a strong oriental charm. Looking at the crack-like design on the car body, it is more like the texture of the material itself than a pattern. Amma and his Dubai friends were more and more surprised, and the more they looked at it, the more they felt that the green glaze sports car in front of them was very stylish. Who brought this sports car? Amir, is it you? Amma asked a white hat beside him. Amir shook his hand quickly after hearing this. It's not mine. You have seen my Lotus Allies before. It is still on the way. Amir also wanted to know who the car belonged to, because he had already decided to ask his parents for money to buy a car when he returned to Dubai. However, just as Amma and his group were asking questions like this, at this time, 2 Russian strongmen got out of 2 silver Hummers. Looking at their sluggish appearance, they were very similar to the bodyguards beside Maweli. Amma, I think I know who this car belongs to, Amir said to Amma in a daze. You don't need to tell me, I think I know who it belongs to, Amma said, turning his head to confirm whether his guess was right. Including Amir and others standing beside him, they all turned their heads to look at Maweli. Maweli saw a group of little white hats looking at him at the same time. He shrugged his shoulders slightly. What he meant was, don't do this. A group of people are staring at me, as if I were looking at a national treasure giant panda or something. Friend, which car company produced this sports car of yours? Why have I never seen it before? Amma asked Maweli very seriously. He had always wanted to ask this question, since he saw the sports car. Bugatti, Maweli said very calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, Amma and others standing in front of him suddenly lost their composure. Bugatti? Bugatti, is there such a car? How come I don't know about it? After hearing this, Maweli shrugged his shoulders again, because this is a modified and customized car. As soon as he finished speaking, several white hats in front of him subconsciously repeated his words and asked, modified and customized car? Well, Bugatti Ed 110, does it look familiar to you? Maweli pointed to the door part of the car shell. He hadn't touched this part and only had it made into ceramic. Amma in the crowd heard that Maweli's super sports car was actually modified from the Bugatti Ed 110. He also owns the Bugatti Ed 110 and immediately asked Maweli with concern, friend, did you find someone to design and modify the front and rear of the car? And what is the material of this car? It looks like it shouldn't be steel or aluminum, right? The question asked by Amma was also of concern to Amir and others. They really learned a lot today. They never thought that sports cars could be played like this. Compared to Maweli, what they played with before was not called playing with cars, it was all just playing around. I guess so. The material of this car is made of Chinese blue and white porcelain, the kind that breaks if you touch it. The blue and white porcelain version of Bugatti Ed 110 was customized by Maweli. The design of the car model was modified based on the appearance of the Bugatti Veyron in the previous life. This can make the Bugatti Ed 110 more domineering and more gorgeous. With the special material of blue and white porcelain, it will definitely be awesome. Blue and white porcelain? That is. I seem to have heard of it somewhere. Although Amma knows about porcelain, he can't tell the difference between blue and white porcelain and yuan porcelain. Maweli forgives the ignorance of the little white hats. Anyway, his blue and white porcelain version Bugatti Ed 110 is a super porcelain touching sports car. Whoever hits it will be unlucky. It will definitely pay a lot of money. And the maintenance cost of this car is surprisingly high. The annual maintenance cost can buy an extra Porsche. It's really a waste of money. There is another chapter in the afternoon. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Bugatti blasts the street. Brother Maweli, look, this blue, porcelain sports car, can you find someone to help me modify one? Don't worry about the price. Everything is easy to negotiate. Amma asked Maweli, as if he was a brother. He was quite intelligent and would not be stupid enough to ask Maweli how much this blue and white porcelain version of Bugatti Ed 110 would sell for. $1 million is not enough, so he would spend $2 million. After all, everyone present is not short of money and does not care about the amount. They only care about face, pomp, privileges and other things. Before Maweli could reply, Amir and others standing around also asked Maweli with a little urgency, "Brother Maweli, and mine. Can you please modify my Lotus LIs too? I want this kind of porcelain, the same as yours. I want my Ferrari 362. Please, brother." Another person next to him said immediately, "Amir and others may not be able to appreciate ceramics, but they know that Maweli's blue and white porcelain sports car is the only one in the world. Then it will be absolutely cool to drive out, and you don't have to worry about colliding with others. That is, you drive the same sports car." As the blue and white porcelain Bugatti Ed 110 slowly landed, some tourists who had just arrived at the airport were attracted by it. What kind of sports car is that light blue one? It's so handsome. Two French girls in stewardess uniforms asked the male flight attendant next to them. The male flight attendant looked carefully and found that he recognized most of the luxury cars in the lane. The only one that was parked in the front was the green glaze sports car, which he had never seen before. "I don't know, maybe it's a new one recently. Look at the car logo. It looks like Bugatti," the male flight attendant said uncertainly. After hearing this, the two graceful French stewardesses looked at the blue and white porcelain version of the Bugatti sports car without blinking, and Maweli, who was sitting in the sports car, didn't know what he was thinking. The world of the rich is so full of attention. Because Maweli's ceramic version of the sports car is really amazing. So Amr and the others unanimously decided that he and his six-wheeled Hummer would lead the European street blasting trip. When Maweli started the Bugatti sports car and prepared to leave the airport with a group of Middle Eastern white hats behind him, there was a startling boom. The 3.5-liter V12 turbocharged engine of Bugatti instantly burst into a roaring sound. The pedestrians on the road were shocked and looked over. Just as Maweli started the engine, the dozen super sports cars behind him also understood and started at the same time. Boom. Boom. In an instant, the air-shaking sound of the sports cars came one after another. It completely drowned the entire airport terminal. About half a minute later, the two silver Hummers in front of Maweli's car drove into the lane to clear the way for him. Then Maweli drove his blue and white porcelain version of Bugatti sports car, leading behind him Jaguar XJR15, McLaren F1, Aston Martin V8, Jaguar XJ220, Ferrari F50, Porsche 911 GT1, Lotus LIs and more than a dozen other super luxury cars, and drove away. The tourists standing at the airport watching were secretly shocked. They thought that this sports car team was really cool. Counting the net worth of this group of local tyrants, it is estimated that the entire team is worth at least more than $1 billion. With Maweli's blue and white porcelain version of Bugatti leading the way, this small white hat team from the Middle East has a lot of momentum. Not only did it scare the passers-by on the street, but they also stopped to watch. Even some rich second generations in Paris, France, were stunned by this sports car, because they had never seen it before. The team set off from the Paris airport, drove all the way to the Eiffel Tower, and then drove around the Seine for a while. Then, they all ran out of gas. It must be said that the disadvantage of super sports cars is that they are difficult to drive and consume fuel too quickly. So a group of people went to the gas station again and chatted for a while. Brother Maweli, a friend of mine in Paris, invited us to his house to attend a party tonight. Are you interested in joining us? Amr kindly invited Maweli. In the circle of rich people, people like to form gangs, make money together, and enjoy happiness together. There are very few brainless rich second generations in novels who want to kill the protagonist and the protagonist's family at every turn. Because with the IQ of such people, they have long been unable to mix in the circle. Party? Sure. Maweli looked at Amr in front of him. He was quite curious whether these Middle Eastern white hats would drink at the party. After all, according to their religious beliefs, drinking is strictly prohibited. Okay, I'll give you the address later. See you tonight, Amr said with a kind smile. As a second generation oil man, he learned a lot from Mavey today. This modification is really eye-opening. Around 8 o'clock that evening, in a rich villa complex in the suburbs of Paris, one luxury car after another drove into the community with its headlights on. Then they drove into a luxuriously decorated and magnificent villa manor in a staggered manner. The owner of this manor, named Richard, is the heir of Hennessy in France. The brand was founded in 1765. Like many rich kids, Richard likes to invite friends from all walks of life to his home for a party. Of course, girls are indispensable for a party. European supermodels and young European models are a must, regardless of nationality. Whether it is a local French model or a hot girl from Italy or Spain, as long as they are good looking, have a good figure, and are young, they can all come to the party. A special car will pick them up, and they will also pay. So when Mavey drove the ceramic version of Bugatti and drove into Richard's manor belatedly, he saw many hot beauties in the brightly lit swimming pool garden, wearing bikinis of various colors, holding champagne or cocktails in their hands, playing happily by the pool. The attractive picture would make people feel as if they had discovered a paradise. He wanted to join them immediately, listen to music with them, and have fun. However, playing is playing, and the car still needs to stop first. Although Mavey was participating in such a bikini party for the first time, but he, who had lived to live, suppressed the restlessness in his heart very well. According to the servants of the manor, Mavey parked the car in an empty parking space near the swimming pool garden. Because he came late, there were not many parking spaces left, so Mavey simply handed the car to his bodyguard to park. However, just when he came out of the Bugatti, in the swimming pool garden not far away, several dark-skinned men in white robes led a group of white people in beach pants and walked towards Mavey. Mavey, my good brother, you are so late. Let me introduce you. This is Richard. Amar enthusiastically introduced his French friend to Mavey. Please, I strongly recommend it. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote. Chapter 43. Extravagant and luxurious life. Actually, there was no need for such a big fuss. But Richard and his friends saw Mavey's ceramic Bugatti sports car. So they were curious and came to check it out. Hello, Mr. Mavey. Welcome to Paris. Nice to meet you. Richard took the initiative to shake hands with Mavey. But before a few words of greeting, his eyes were always attracted by the Bugatti sports car in front of him. Mr. Mavey, how come I have never seen this sports car of yours? Excuse me, which company is it produced by? Richard and his friends gathered in front of Mavey's car to watch. He carried it on his shoulders. Several people have been playing with sports cars for many years, but have never seen such a domineering super sports car. And judging from the material of the car body, it seems to be some special porcelain material. Richard and others are like Amar at the beginning. The more they look at sports cars, the more they feel strange and the more they like them from the bottom of their hearts. Bugatti. Mavey saw people asking about cars everywhere and thought that he might as well buy a sports car company to play with in the future. Anyway, after the internet bubble crisis, his Amazon, Google and VK will start to take off. The market value of the company is getting higher day by day. When they go public in 2 years, they will be 3 money-making machines. It can directly increase his net worth by tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. Bugatti? Does Bugatti have this sports car? The successor of EB 110? Richard asked in confusion. I guess so. It's modified from Bugatti EB 110. Mavey answered casually. He didn't come here to show off his car today, but to attend a party. But Richard and others only met Mavey for the first time today, and they were embarrassed to ask Mavey too much. So after listening, they had to keep the modification in their hearts. Then he formally invited Mavey with a smile on his face to join their bikini party. Haha. Friend, your car is really handsome. Richard praised Mavey while leading him to the swimming pool garden. Then he said loudly to the bikini hotties in the pool, girls, let me introduce you. This is Mr. Mavey from Russia. As soon as he finished introducing, he saw several bikini beauties who were quite interested in Mavey, and they waved and greeted him with a sweet smile. Hi, Mr. Mavey. Mavey looked at the pool of sexy beauties. There were at least more than 30 of them. All of them had long flowing hair, were young and beautiful, had white skin, and long legs. You could tell at a glance that they were of high quality. These young models and beauties are goddesses in the eyes of others. But in the eyes of a rich man like Mawey, they can't reach that level because there are too many around. Brother Mawey, there are many empty rooms upstairs in the villa, you know. Don't be restrained at the party. Play however you want. Just have fun. Amma, wearing a white robe, holding a blonde beauty with his left hand, and holding a cocktail in his right hand, said to Mawey. Chapter 44. The Happiness of the Rich. Mawey bit his teeth calmly, then asked the girl, "What do you want?" After hearing this, Catherine smiled lightly, and then said to Mawey, "I don't want anything. Anyway, the legs are on your body, not mine. Look at me, I smell like alcohol. How can I go home? Go up and wash it. Can't you go home?" Mawey couldn't help but ask back. He was not a pig with lust on his brain, who would let a woman manipulate him. "Then will you help me wash it?" Catherine asked Mawey with an ambiguous smile. As a man, and a man who lived a new life, if he just gave in, it would be a waste of the precious opportunity given to him by God. "Okay, I'll help you wash it." After Mawey finished speaking, he simply went all out, bent down and picked up Catherine's pair of slender white legs, and then carried her whole body, buttocks facing up, on his shoulders. With Catherine's scream, Mawey carried her all the way to the edge of the swimming pool, and then asked her with a smile, "How about it? Do you still want me to help you wash?" Catherine was held on Mawey's shoulders, and she couldn't use her body strength. So she had to be laughed at by her companions around her, sticking out her hips, and then said to Mawey without admitting defeat, "Okay, if you have the guts, throw me down." Mawey smiled after hearing this, and felt that this blonde girl was quite stubborn, so he raised his left hand and slapped Catherine's plump hips directly. Pa. The crisp sound was very pleasant. Including the feel, it was absolutely first class. Catherine bit her teeth in shame and anger, and her slender beautiful legs kicked Mawey's shoulders twice. Then she swung down again, because she had no strength. The scene was really fragrant and interesting. But at this time, I don't know which brave girl drank too much or smoked marijuana. When Mawey wasn't paying attention, she quietly came behind the two men, and pushed them into the swimming pool. Splash. Mawey fell into the water without any preparation, and so did Catherine on his shoulder. However, at this moment, Catherine suddenly broke free from his restraints, and then used her swimming ability to flexibly turn over in the water like a mermaid. Then she found an opportunity to retaliate, and put her arms around Mawey's neck. Feeling that he was surrounded by something soft, Mawey, who sank to the bottom of the swimming pool, couldn't help but want to stand up. But at this moment, Catherine suddenly leaned over, and kissed Mawey on the lips. Foreign girls are really too unrestrained. This is the first time that Mawey has been kissed and teased by a beautiful woman in the swimming pool. This feeling is really a bit strange. When he finally surfaced and wiped the water drops on his face, Mawey suddenly found that the men and women in the entire swimming pool garden had started a dissolute flirting mode. There were even several girls who, under the influence of alcohol and desire, generously took off their bikinis and let everyone admire them, pushing the atmosphere of the whole party to a higher climax. Such a crazy party with sound and color can only appear in the world of rich people. Even AV movies can't make it. Because the beauties in front of them are all tall and pretty. Compared with those AV actresses who go to the sea, the quality is not at the same level at all. At this time, Catherine ambiguously touched her wet blonde hair, and then asked softly in Mawey's ear, "Handsome, how about we go upstairs to take a hot bath?" Mawey, who lived a new life, naturally would not be Yahoo. Otherwise he would definitely not let down his precious opportunity to start over. So he and Catherine came to a room on the second floor of the villa. Then after closing the door, Catherine quickly unbuttoned Mawey's wet shirt. Then, full of appreciation and desire, she kept staring at Mawey's figure. "Does it look good?" Mawey was really grateful to the Russian Mawey, who not only left him a huge fortune, but also had a very good figure and appearance. It can be said that he was a human-shaped cannon. "It looks good." Catherine smiled and curled her lips, then couldn't help but raise her bare hands and gently stroked Mawey's chest and abdominal muscles. As Catherine kept getting closer, Mawey could clearly feel her slightly rapid breathing and excited eyes. Then, before he could react, Mawei found that Catherine had actually pushed him against the door, then stood on tiptoes and grabbed Mawei's shirt collar with her free left hand. Looking at this posture, it was obvious that they hadn't kissed enough in the swimming pool just now. So they entered the room and continued to kiss. Mawei felt the body temperature and softness coming from Catherine. Gradually, he felt the wild flood power in his body being mobilized. This desire was different from his original desire, but it was the primitive desire in the Russian body. So, Catherine and Mawei hugged and kissed each other very naturally. At the same time, Catherine began to unbutton Mawei's pants and take off her own clothes, revealing her snow white and flawless attractive body. At this point in the process, the arrow was on the string and had to be shot. If Mawei could not restrain his impulse, he would not be considered a man. After a night, when Mawei woke up again, it was already noon the next day. Catherine beside him was still sleeping soundly. P.S. I overturned the car, so I modified it. Please recommend. Chapter 45 Acquisition of Blizzard. Last night, Mawei tossed her around so hard that he didn't let her go to sleep until almost 3 in the morning. I have to say that Russian Mawei's body is really easy to use. The wild and flood power that erupted fully allowed Mawei to enjoy the pleasure of conquest. After getting up and putting on new clothes, Mawei left the money directly at the bedside. This is not because he is ruthless, but because of the circle of foreign tycoons. Everyone comes out just to play. The rich enjoy the beauty and service of beautiful women, and the beautiful women use their beauty to make some extra money. Everyone takes what they need and doesn't talk about feelings. Whoever gets emotional will lose in this game, and lose miserably. When Mawei returned to the hotel in the convoy, he called the butler Ivan into the room. "Master, you are back. Do you want me to ask the servants to arrange lunch for you?" As soon as the butler Ivan entered the room, he asked Mawei with concern. Mawei nodded after hearing this. "Yeah, by the way, how is the work going? Google has found several companies willing to cooperate, and now we are waiting for you to go there in person." Ivan answered truthfully. "Yeah, okay." Mawei stretched and prepared to eat. What he wanted to do was to ask Larry and Sergey to help him find a suitable game company to prepare to enter the game industry. Classic games like Counter-Strike must be produced, and the model must be combined with some popular element and continuously added to the game, so as to ensure that it will last forever. After a simple lunch at the hotel, Mawei took his private plane directly to the United States. At present, he still has $300 million in his bank card. In 2000, this money can definitely allow him to walk sideways, as long as he is not stupid enough to acquire those already formed giant companies, such as Apple and Microsoft. The rest can definitely allow him to walk sideways. Amazon, which he previously invested in, and Google and VGuest Video, which he acquired, have successively established branches in Russia. After all, Mawei is now a Russian, and it is necessary for him to develop in Russia. It's just that apart from energy, almost all other industries in Russia are going downhill. So what Mawei can do now is to acquire those unicorn companies that have not yet grown up with the memory of his previous life. Then continue to open branches in Russia and even around the world. In this way, it will be able to boost the local economy, employment, consumption, and life in Russia. I believe that when everything develops, his contribution to the country will be obvious to all. Maybe he can participate in politics and get an honorary official or something. When the Gulfstream G200 took off, Mawei casually opened the game company information received in his mailbox. He had received it before boarding the plane. At this time, he suddenly discovered that in the list of 6 game companies, there was actually a company called Blizzard, which was listed. According to the memory of the previous life, almost all games produced by Blizzard are of high quality level and widely recognized by players, especially games such as Warcraft, World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Diablo, etc., which can definitely be described as popular all over the world. If Mawei acquires this company and then uses his precious memory of the previous life, I believe that by then, we should be able to monopolize the gaming industry. We will completely defeat Tencent Games, Microsoft Games, Sony Games, NetEase and other gaming companies. When thinking of this, Maweli was a little excited. In his previous life, he also liked to play games. Compared with Amazon and Google, gaming companies make him feel more at home. As soon as a plane landed, Maweli immediately checked the internet for information. He found that, since the Blizzard company in this life was acquired by Vivendi, it has lost its previous spirit and has only released Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, and Diablo 1. As for the popular Diablo 2, StarCraft, and Warcraft 3, they were not released due to the excess of interference and excessive exploitation of the parent company Vivendi. Maweli silently watched this information. Once a gaming beast like Blizzard is overly restrained, it will naturally lack its enthusiasm and spirituality in making games. It's like a tiger locked in a cage, losing its wildness. Ask Larry to contact Vivendi to discuss the acquisition of Blizzard. Maweli instructed the butler as he got off the plane. Vivendi was a water company in France before 1996. It does everything from TV stations, print media to game companies, and mainly involves various industries through acquisition. In simple terms, it is to buy a company with money, and then slowly eat away its potential to death. As long as there is money to be made in this process, when it is no longer useful, it will be sold and thrown away. 2 days later, Google sent a message saying that Vivendi is very willing to negotiate with Maweli about the acquisition of Blizzard. The meeting time is scheduled for 3:30 p.m. this Thursday. The location is at Blizzard's headquarters. Maweli has made preparations in advance for this negotiation with the French. He knows that the other party is very greedy and will deliberately raise the price and squeeze him like an ATM. So Maweli did not let Larry and others reveal their identities. He just said that he met him through a friend's introduction and was very interested in acquiring Blizzard. So, at 3:25 p.m. on Thursday, when the representative of Vivendi's French headquarters, Lion, dressed in a sophisticated French suit, stood downstairs of Blizzard with Blizzard's president Mike Mikoyan, ready to welcome Maweli's arrival, they saw a bright yellow super sports car. Oh, no. A bright yellow American taxi stopped steadily in front of the two. Then a white young man wearing an old-fashioned suit and carrying an old briefcase walked out of the car. The young man also wore bulky framed glasses from head to toe, giving people the feeling of an insurance salesman or someone who came for an interview. His dress was in sharp contrast to that of Vivendi's vice president, Lion. The two people standing in front of them subconsciously thought that the young man was not the one they were waiting for. So they ignored the young man and continued to look forward to the arrival of the real owner. In fact, what the two did not know was that the white young man standing in front of them was Mr. Maweli they were waiting for. But this time, Maweli did not bring his motorcade or bodyguards with him. He did not want to be seen as a fool with lots of money and then be asked for an exorbitant price. Even if he bought Blizzard, he would be unhappy with the deal and even feel very aggrieved. Chapter 46, Incomprehensible Operations. Maweli looked up at Lion and Mike Mikoyan in front of him, and then found that the other party did not recognize him. So he brushed past the two people leisurely and walked towards the Blizzard building. In this life, Blizzard was overexploited by the parent company, resulting in a game company that should have 150 employees, but now has less than 70 people. This also caused the company to go into a vicious cycle and could not produce good game works, including the development funds for game projects. It was also very insufficient, almost like tightening the belt. Seeing that the agreed time was approaching, Mike Mikoyan asked Lion with some uneasiness, "Ahem. It's almost 3:30, why hasn't Mr. Maweli shown up yet? Is there a traffic jam on the road?" President Mike Mikoyan was very helpless about the company being transferred again. He was a college student who started from scratch. Even if he made two classic games, he could not compete with the powerful capitalists. Moreover, the competition in the game circle is very fierce, and the requirements of players for games are constantly rising. It's not something that can be fooled by just making a game. Maybe, how about we go in and wait? Frenchman Leon, estimated to be about 1.7 meters tall, with two delicate mustaches on his face, matched with his exquisite suit. He is a sophisticated person at first glance. This time, Vivendi sent Leon to discuss cooperation. The purpose was the same as Maweli expected, that is, to sell Blizzard, which no longer lays golden eggs, at a price higher than the market price. Well, let's go in and wait. Mike nodded in agreement, and then prepared to go back to the company building with Leon. But just as the two of them turned around, they heard the mobile phone in their suit pockets suddenly rang. Looking at the number, it was from the company's front desk. "Hello. What's the matter?" Mike answered the phone directly and asked. On the other end of the phone, the panicked voice of the receptionist came. "Boss, the Mr. Maweli you are waiting for is already at our company's front desk." "Already at the front desk? Wait for us, we will be there soon." Mike hung up the phone quickly, then turned to Leon and said, "Vice President Leon, the front desk said that Mr. Maweli has arrived at the company." "What? Already arrived?" Leon really didn't know where Maweli came from. The two of them had been waiting downstairs in the company for so long, but they didn't even see a shadow. He is the newly appointed vice president of Vivendi, and he is eager to make some achievements. So he is very concerned about this negotiation. "Let's go back." Leon and Mike rushed back, not realizing that there was a black SUV diagonally opposite, watching their actions. In the SUV sat Maweli's bodyguards and butler Ivan. The bodyguards really didn't know what was wrong with the young master today. Why didn't he take a good luxury car team, and why didn't he want such a handsome show, but had to dress so rustically, and even took a taxi to discuss business? Young master, why did he do this? When he went in just now, the two people who received him at the door didn't even look at him. At this time, a Russian bodyguard in the car couldn't help but ask the butler. Most Russian men are wooden-headed and don't have much business sense. So the butler Ivan couldn't help but look at him and didn't explain anything. Because even if he explained, it would take a lot of effort. Maweli is a typical playing the pig to eat the tiger. Only by pretending that he has no financial resources can he buy the company without being blackmailed. Otherwise, if others know that he has a lot of money, they will definitely be moved by sympathy and ask for a sky-high price. After all, the ownership of Blizzard is in their hands. They don't have to sell it. At the same time, at the front desk of Blizzard, Maweli was wearing a grey and loose suit, sitting on the sofa with a briefcase in his arms. The expression on his face was like a newbie who didn't know anything. The two blonde ladies passing by the front desk thought he was here to sell products. When Leon walked into the company with Mike, he stared at Maweli at the front desk, and his whole body was in a daze. Maweli was the only stranger on the sofa in the company, so even if he used his toes, he could guess that the rustic young man in front of him was the one who came to negotiate the acquisition. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Maweli?" Leon walked up hesitantly, with question marks written all over his face. He has been in the workplace for many years, and he has never seen a boss who talks about acquisitions and doesn't look like a boss. To put it bluntly, some of his employees look more decent than the young man in front of him. "Hello, I am." Maweli stood up and shook hands with Leon and Mike respectively. Seeing that Maweli was so young and the suit he wore seemed very cheap, Leon tried to test Maweli in a slightly official tone. "Hello, let me introduce myself first. I'm the vice president of Vivendi. My name is Leon. This is Mike, the president of Blizzard Games. May I ask where Mr. Maweli works?" After hearing this, Maweli thought about it briefly and said without saying anything, "I don't work anywhere. I just have some spare money and I want to find a company to invest in." When he said this, Leon, who was standing in front of him, was really confused. He had no idea whether Maweli was capable or not. But Leon was not the kind of brainless person in the novel after all. He would not sneer at the protagonist just because he was dressed ordinary. Leon first glanced at Mike and then prepared to take Maweli to visit the company as usual. "Mr. Maweli, this is the R&D department of our Blizzard company. Next door is the product department, and there is also the operation department. Our Blizzard company has produced many top games that are popular all over the world in recent years. For example, Warcraft and Diablo. Mr. Maweli, the electronic game industry is just starting out now, and there is still a lot of room for future development." In the process of introducing to Maweli, Leon was not very enthusiastic, nor was he very cold. He just routinely explained the future development of the game industry to Maweli. In simple terms, it was just a big pie in the sky. telling him how good the game industry is, and that he would definitely make a lot of money in the future if he acquired Blizzard. Half an hour later, when the three of them finished visiting Blizzard, they came to the multimedia conference room. Vivendi Vice President Lion simply asked Mawei straight to the point, "Mr. Mawei, I believe you have already learned about our Blizzard company. The company's information has been sent to your email 2 days ago. So why don't we talk about the acquisition?" Chapter 47, A Transformation. Mawei sat down at the conference table with a briefcase and then adjusted his frame glasses. "Okay, how should we talk?" Mawei was not in a hurry. Since he was pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger, he had to wait until the last moment when the prey appeared before attacking with all his strength. Otherwise, he would definitely fail. Seeing that Mawei was unwilling to say more, Leon simply went a step further and said to him, "This is simple, Mr. Mawei. Let's not beat around the bush. Why don't you first tell me your valuation of Blizzard? Vivendi does everything for profit. Since Blizzard can no longer make popular games, the company is no longer valuable to them. It's nothing more than whoever bids the highest, they will sell Blizzard to. As for how to develop in the future, whether the acquirer has the operating ability, Vivendi doesn't consider these. They acquired it in the first place, just to squeeze and make money. They don't make long-term plans at all. My valuation of Blizzard is around $2 million US. Mawei is not a local tyrant now, so he simply shouted a lower price. $2 million US? Lion couldn't help but raise his eyebrows after hearing this. It seems that he was a little dissatisfied with Mawei's first offer. "Mr. Mawei, your price is a bit too low, isn't it?" Lion asked Mawei without disguising. The valuation of Blizzard by their Vivendi headquarters is about $11 million US. Mawei's initial offer is several times lower, and it is difficult for the two parties to continue the discussion, because it is obvious that they cannot reach a consensus, including Blizzard President Mike Mikoyan, who was sitting next to him. The expectation in his heart has been reduced to the lowest at this time. He originally thought that, if the new owner was richer and gave the company more resources and support, the situation should be much better than under Vivendi. But what he didn't expect was that the investor in front of him didn't seem to have much wealth, and he seriously underestimated the value of Blizzard. "This offer is no different from robbery. Then how much do you think you can accept?" Mawei couldn't help but ask back. It was easy for him to spend money, but he didn't want to be treated as a fool with a lot of money. Seeing that Mawei's initial offer was too low, Lion gradually lost interest in the negotiation. He only stretched out his hand to adjust his bow tie and then said to Mawei with a somewhat cold attitude, "Let me tell you this, Mr. Mawei, our Vivendi headquarters values Blizzard at $11 million US. It is too different from the $2 million US you quoted. I'm afraid we can't continue to discuss this deal." After Lion finished speaking, he was ready to stand up and shake hands with Mawei, meaning to see him off. After all, according to his experience, if the initial offer is too different, there is no way to negotiate later. It is almost impossible to negotiate a price of $2 million to $11 million, or even more. However, just as Lion was saying this, Mawei, who was sitting in his seat, suddenly said to him, $11 million US? Does that mean that, if I can offer this amount, Blizzard will sell it to me? After hearing Mawei's question, Lion was stunned for a moment, and then he answered hesitantly, "Yes, if there is no higher offer within a few weeks, the probability of a deal will be very high." Lion is a newly appointed vice president, and he is not very cunning. In addition, this mission is very important to him, so he doesn't want to miss any opportunity to trade. Mawei nodded casually after hearing this, and then said lightly in front of the two people, "Okay, then I'll add another $9 million. As soon as the voice fell, Lion and Mike, who were standing in front of him, were stunned for a moment. I don't know what Mawei is doing. He just offered a small price of $2 million US, but now he suddenly raised the price by $9 million, and it seems that there is no pressure. Are you serious, Mr. Mawei?" Lion asked hurriedly. He had a vague feeling of being trapped. "Of course, do you think I'm joking?" Mawei couldn't help but ask back. People in 2000 are much simpler than those 19 years later. They were hooked with a little trick. But then again, Mawei in his previous life was also very simple in 2000. He thought many things were wishful thinking and fanciful. No, No. I mean, really? Are you willing to pay $11 million US? Lion had to confirm again and again. For him, selling Blizzard games is the top priority. As for the amount, if it is really not possible, it is enough to explain to the board of directors. Maweli smiled after hearing this. I have already given the price anyway. After that, he shook hands with Lion and Mike one after another. Then he walked out of the Blizzard building in a chic manner. Out of reception etiquette, Mike and Lion must see Maweli off. However, when the two followed Maweli and walked out of the Blizzard building, the scene in front of them stunned them. At this moment, two pure silver extended Hummers were parked in front of the company building. 6 wheels and bright silver domineering body made the extended version of the Hummer look extremely noble. Not only that, there were 4 light grey military Hummers guarding the silver Hummers. Each military Hummer was equipped with an M60 general purpose machine gun and guarded by a special person. It looked very difficult to mess with. My god, what's going on? Are there important military personnel visiting? Leon couldn't help asking in his heart. He looked at the situation in front of him, and his first reaction was that some great big shot was visiting. But just as he was thinking this, he saw dozens of black-clad bodyguards guarding the Hummer convoy suddenly rushing towards him. Leon was so scared that he hugged his arms and took several steps back, and he was almost scared out of his wits. Master Maweli. Master. The bodyguards were not interested in Leon at all. They gathered around Maweli respectfully, doing their best to protect his safety. Yeah. Maweli just nodded slightly. He was already accustomed to such scenes. He would not be as panicked as Leon. Seeing this scene, Leon and Mike, who retreated 3 meters away, understood Maweli's true identity. So the two of them stood together awkwardly, looking at each other, and even dared not to come forward to talk to Maweli. But at this moment, Maweli pushed aside the bodyguard team and came to Leon and Mike. If there is a higher price, remember to notify me in time. Okay. Leon agreed quickly. As a senior worker in the workplace, he had never seen such a person who came out to discuss business with a machine gun team. Chapter 48 Buying Blizzard Games. Okay. Lion agreed quickly. As a senior worker in the workplace, he had never seen such a person who came out to discuss business with a convoy of machine guns. This is simply a naked threat of force. In addition, Lion had made the negotiation conditions clear to Maweli before. So he definitely couldn't go back on his word now, and he didn't have the courage to challenge Maweli's bottom line of tolerance. So he would naturally follow the agreement and dare not cheat. Well, it's a deal, Maweli said with a smile. This time he played the pig and ate the tiger, and it went smoothly. It seems that changing the negotiation method occasionally is not bad. Okay, it's a deal. Lion was stared at by the bodyguards around him, and his palms were sweating. He only wanted Maweli to take people away quickly, otherwise his heart would be thumping, which was really uncomfortable. 2 minutes later, when Maweli got on his Hummer convoy, he drove away from the company building in a mighty manner. The vice president, Lion, who was standing downstairs, finally breathed a sigh of relief. Thinking back to the reception just now, Lion was really a little scared. If he had been rude to Maweli or treated him poorly, he might have been put on his head with a sack and beaten up when he was walking at night a few nights later, including Mike Mikoyan, who was standing next to him. He was also very glad that he had not made any mistakes just now. Otherwise, if Maweli succeeded in acquiring the company, he would be the first to suffer. After 2 weeks of confirmation, Maweli finally successfully bought Blizzard from Vivendi for $12 million US. The reason why the other party agreed so quickly was that they wanted to take advantage of the hot market in the past 2 years and get rid of it as soon as possible. Otherwise, they might have to sell it even cheaper after a while. After acquiring Blizzard, Maweli still had $288 million US left in his bank account. But he was not worried about his assets shrinking. Because with the memory of the previous life, Maweli can completely turn Blizzard into the world's most profitable super game company. Even Tencent, which was the top earner in the previous life, would call him brother in this life. Mike, go and arrange for the company's R&D personnel to come to Russia together next week. Maweli began his game creation plan. The first game to be released is naturally Counter-Strike, which does not exist in this life. After receiving the news, Blizzard's president, Mike Mikoyan, also asked Mavey what he was going to do there. But Mavey was mysterious and did not tell him. He simply said that he would arrange everything. Although Mike did not know the truth, as the CEO of the acquired company, he immediately sent an email to the company's R&D department as instructed. Employees were required to take time out on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week to prepare for a business trip to Russia. When Alan, the game development director, received the president's email, he couldn't help but call Mike and said, "Hello, President Mike, this is Alan from the R&D department. From what you said in your email, you want our entire R&D department to go on a business trip to Russia starting next Tuesday. What is the purpose of the business trip?" Alan, the R&D director, also knew that the company had been transferred recently. However, like other employees, he had never seen the true face of the new boss. He only knew that he was Russian and his family was very rich. The purpose of the business trip is not clear at the moment. But when we get there, the new boss said he would arrange it. Mike was also confused. He didn't have much contact with Mavey. He originally thought that the two sides would have a long talk. But Mavey had not met with everyone after acquiring Blizzard. This was really a bit unconventional. On Tuesday morning, when President Mike, with Alan, the R&D director, and 6 or 7 people in his department, took a special car to the California airport, everyone saw the Gulfstream G200 private jet that came to pick them up. "Wow, is this the new boss's private jet? It looks so cool." A colleague from the R&D department wearing glasses exclaimed in a nerdy tone. "It's my first time to take a private jet. I feel a little excited. Is the new boss on the plane?" Another male colleague beside him couldn't help but smile excitedly. As soon as he finished speaking, the captain and flight attendants who came to greet them in the G200 private jet said, "Everyone, please get on the plane. Master Mavey is waiting for you in Russia." Mavey naturally handed the matter of welcoming him to his subordinates. All he had to do was give orders and stay at home to pet the bear while chatting with Jennifer in the United States through text messages. Of course, there was also a maid named Anfia behind him, massaging and rubbing his shoulders. "When are you going to come to the United States to see me?" Mavey hadn't seen Jennifer again for almost a month. This made the daughter of Marriott Group very frustrated. Obviously, she had taken the initiative to flirt with Mavey at the airport. But until now, the two of them have not made any progress, except chatting on text messages. Mavey gently stepped on the belly of polar bear Winnie with his foot, and then sent a text message back to Jennifer. "When do you want me to find you?" After a month of growth, little polar bear Winnie has grown a lot, including her daily food intake. It is more than an adult. Winnie was seen lying on her forelegs, happily opening her mouth, indicating that she was very comfortable being stepped on by Mavey. Polar bears take the initiative to show their belly to people, representing closeness and trust. Mavey looked at the cute white guy under his feet and suddenly thought about whether he should buy a tiger to be her playmate. However, just as he was thinking about this, he received a reply from Jennifer on the other end of the phone. "Next week?" Jennifer is not the kind of willful daughter, and she will not make a fuss and ask Mavey to fly to the United States now. "Okay, sure." Mavey is not the kind of person who lets women manipulate him, but he is not arrogant. Since the rich and beautiful girl said so unfairly, it would hurt her heart if he didn't go. After chatting with Jennifer on text messages for a while, Mavey gradually fell asleep under the gentle massage of the maid. When he woke up, he heard the butler Ivan whispering to him, "Master, the plane is about to land at the airport. The guests from the United States are expected to arrive in an hour." "Well, okay, I got it." Mavey stood up from the sofa. At this time, the servant waiting beside him dared to take a brush to clean the white hair on his trouser legs. That is, the hair that Winnie the polar bear rubbed on. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Russian AGS-30 Automatic Grenade Launcher. The hair on the polar bear will fall off very badly every summer. I believe that people who have raised long-haired cats and dogs have a deep understanding of this. That is, when the pet sheds its hair, as long as you scratch it a little, the hair will definitely fly everywhere. 10 minutes later, when Maweni's Gulfstream G200 plane landed smoothly at Moscow International Airport. In the cabin, Blizzard President Mike, R&D Director Alan and 8 other people immediately saw a fleet of Russian Tiger armored vehicles ready to go, parked neatly not far from the plane. Next to each Tiger armored vehicle, there were 2 Russian bodyguards standing. On the top of each car, there was a pure black Gatling machine gun, which was the manual multi-barrel rotary machine gun that Schwarzenegger often used in the Terminator. The firing rate of this machine gun can generally reach more than 1000 rounds per minute per barrel. It is a very violent heavy weapon. In addition to the Gatling machine gun, each Tiger armored vehicle is also equipped with the Russian AGS-30 automatic grenade launcher that was just finalized last year. This grenade launcher is used to suppress snipers, and it is very effective. It is equipped with a PAG-17 optical sight, which can be magnified 2.7 times, and has the function of night lighting. It has a wide range of combat applications. Looking at the armored vehicles of this entire army, Mike, the president of Blizzard, who was sitting in the plane, couldn't help swallowing his saliva. Even though he had seen Maweni's pomp 2 weeks ago. But now seeing it again, he was still shocked. Not to mention the Blizzard employees sitting around him. Oh my god. Tiger armored vehicle, is that a grenade launcher on it? It's really Russia, it's too fierce. A male colleague wearing glasses couldn't help but sigh. Yes, the firepower of a grenade launcher is not even equipped by security companies in our United States. Is this the convoy sent by the new boss to pick us up? It's too awesome. Who is he? Another R&D staff member who has a strong interest in the military, said in the cabin. Although Alan, the R&D director, didn't know why the new boss Maweny called them to Russia, he didn't know what he was going to do. But whether it was the G200 private jet that picked them up, or the Tiger armored vehicle fleet parked in front of them, Director Alan deeply felt that the new boss had a powerful background. When everyone got off the plane like Liu Leo visiting the Grandview Garden, a Russian man wearing camouflage and sunglasses got off the Tiger armored vehicle in the lead. He looked to be in his 30s. Hello everyone, welcome to Moscow. Boss Maweny is already waiting for you at the military training ground. The Russian man who spoke was Victor, a member of the Alpha Special Forces recruited by Maweny a few weeks ago. He is also Maweny's capable man, responsible for the personnel training of the Russian security base. The layout of the security company opened by Maweny is really not small. Not only has it established 2 bases in Russia, but also established security branches in the United States and the United Kingdom. The former US Secret Service agents, former US Delta Special Forces, and former British Air Service members recruited by him were sent to these foreign bases to lead the training. Moreover, every quarter, these newcomers from the United States, Britain, and Russia have to exchange bases for intensive training. They use various weapons, receive different instructors, and have different training modes. I heard that the boss Maweny was waiting for me at the training ground. I saw the expressions on everyone's faces, and they seemed a little stunned. Military training ground. But we are all game developers, why do we go to the training ground? Director Allen was really confused. Could it be that the new boss wanted them to join the service? President Mike didn't understand what Maweny was doing, but he had contact with Maweny and knew that the boss had his own ideas. He was not the kind of person who was moody and had money but no brains. Let's get in the car, let's go and take a look first, Mike suggested to everyone. Then he took the lead and followed Victor to get on the Tiger armored vehicle. Director Allen and others looked at each other. Then because everyone had already come, it was impossible to go back now, so they just went with the boss to take a look. So everyone got on the Tiger armored vehicle with trepidation. Then, they drove to the WE security base located on the outskirts of Moscow. Half an hour later, when everyone arrived at the training base, they were immediately taken by bodyguards to the field training ground behind the base. The field of view of this training ground is very vast, and it is estimated to be nearly tens of thousands of square meters. There are various cement buildings, wooden huts, and triathlon infrastructure that are common in training grounds. Not only that, the Blizzard employees also saw several Russian bodyguards in suits coming not far away. The key is that each of them has a variety of lethal weapons in their hands. For example, the well-known World Gun King AK-47, such as the M4 assault rifle commonly used by the US military, such as the Winchester's air gun with explosive melee damage. All kinds of terrifying heavy weapons made the Blizzard employees feel a little scared. Mike, President Mike, the new boss, who is he? Why did he bring us here? And there are so many armed bodyguards. A R&D staff member asked Mike quietly. Many ferocious Russian bodyguards stood around them, holding machine guns and heavy weapons, staring at the group of people with a fierce look. Mike shook his head without answering. He thought it would be better to wait and see what would happen. Although he felt a little uneasy and even a little scared at this moment, the atmosphere in the venue dropped to freezing point. Almost all the Blizzard employees present dared not make a sound. They could only gradually gather together to keep warm. About 5 minutes later, the people who were worried in the training ground suddenly saw a Russian youth wearing a black t-shirt. He walked towards the crowd leisurely with a snow-white cute little polar bear. As the Russian youth appeared, Mike, who was standing in the crowd, suddenly reminded everyone in a low voice, "The boss is here, everyone pay attention." Hearing the president say that the new boss has arrived, the expressions on everyone's faces suddenly changed. They all cast their eyes on the oncoming Russian youth. "Master! Master!" The Russian bodyguards holding various machine guns greeted Maweli one after another. Winnie, the polar bear walking beside Maweli, raised her furry head and looked at everything in front of her curiously. "Put away the guns first, don't scare my guests." Maweli was really helpless with these Russian bodyguards. If they were holding machine guns so blatantly, others would think they were going to massacre. Chapter 50 Anti-Type 1 Grenade. As soon as the voice fell, the ferocious Russian bodyguards put down their axe and M4s one by one. This made the Blizzard employees secretly relieved. "Hello, Chairman Maweli." President Mike, trying to force a smile to greet Maweli. "Hello, are you tired on the way?" Maweli asked Mike casually. This was his first appearance in front of Blizzard employees. Almost all the employees present were slightly moved by Maweli's youth and the style he showed. "It's not tiring on the way, it's quite comfortable. I just don't know why you asked us to come to Russia this time." Mike asked Maweli carefully. To be honest, the way here was not tiring. The private plane was great, and the Tiger armored vehicle team was also very tough. Maweli knew that the Blizzard employees must have a lot of questions in their stomachs. So he smiled after hearing that and said directly, "This time I called you here to develop a new game." After he finished speaking, the Blizzard employees standing in front of him became even more confused. "Develop a new game? Then why come so far to Moscow? It's fine in the United States." Everyone didn't say what they were thinking. After all, as the boss, there were some things that Maweli couldn't say in front of him. However, Maweli, who had lived to live, naturally saw the doubts in everyone's hearts. So he said directly to the President Mike, "The new game I want to develop is a shooting game called Counter-Strike. The game divides players into two camps, Counter-Strike and terrorists, and then through the fight of different weapons, one side must kill all the other side." Based on his memory, Maweli described the theme of the Counter-Strike game that was once popular all over the world to Mike and others. However, when he only described the beginning, Mike, Alan and other game developers standing in front of him were all inspired. Counter-Strike vs. terrorists. This game concept will interest players, right? Shooting battle game. This should be a selling point. As far as I know, no other game company has made similar games. Everyone was discussing. As game developers, they actually think about what kind of games players will like every day. Ordinary level breaking games are usually boring after the game is completed. If the difficulty is too simple, there is no challenge, and if it is too difficult, players will lose patience. The shooting battle game proposed by Maweli is a very novel concept. Through the competition between players, various different ways of playing can be used, which further stimulates the fun of the game and the desire to win. Chairman Maweli, I think the game you proposed is a good innovation. It is very feasible. Blizzard President Mike is also the CEO of a game company. With his industry perspective, he knows that ideas like Maweli's are of high quality. Facing the flattery of the crowd, Maweli smiled and waved his hand. This was not his idea. And he did not ask the R&D department to come to Russia to listen to their flattery. So, at this moment, Maweli waved to a bodyguard. Then, the Russian bodyguard understood and took out a anti-1 grenade from a wooden box beside him. Then he handed it to Maweli carefully. Seeing that the new boss actually had a real grenade in his hand, Blizzard President Mike and Alan and others instantly changed their expressions and stepped back. Chairman Maweli, what are you doing? Don't panic, this grenade is used to collect game data. While Maweli was talking, the explosion-proof photography team was already in place. They brought the most advanced photography equipment and prepared to record the explosion scene later. This way, when Mike and others put it into the game, it will appear extremely realistic. The player experience will also be better. Maweli's method is really too tough and very Russian. Mike, Alan and others standing in front of him secretly gasped. Oh my god. This is too crazy. In order to collect game screens, the boss actually did it for real? Grenade. What if it is not thrown properly? Will it hurt innocent people? The power of the explosion and the shrapnel, that's no joke. The two male colleagues in the R&D department were frightened and quietly hid behind. Such game development, the two really can't afford to offend. Maweli looked at the two people who quietly retreated and estimated that at this time, only Winnie, the polar bear playing alone beside him, was the most fearless. So he asked the bodyguard to take Winnie back, so that when the grenade was thrown out later, the silly white bear would run over and take it back. That would be a tragedy for one person and one bear. This kind of low-level mistake must not be made. While the bodyguard led the polar bear away, Maweli also came to a raised trench built of cement. At this time, he held a grenade in his right hand and a pull ring in his left hand. With just a little force, this powerful bomb can be activated. Mike and others, who were standing more than 10 meters away from him, were half worried and half curious to see Maweli throwing grenades. Meeting such a thoughtful and tough Russian boss, everyone still needs a long time to adapt. However, just as they stood behind Maweli, waiting for him to pull the grenade, they saw a loud rumbling sound suddenly coming from the originally quiet field training base. Listening to this sound, it is comparable to the heavy trucks in the factory, but the metal creaking sound mixed in it is more piercing than the heavy trucks. The sudden noisy sound also brought a slight vibration to the ground. When Mike, Alan and others turned around, they wanted to see what was making such a loud noise. But at this moment, a giant military green tank was seen. With its black muzzle raised high, it drove towards the crowd majestically. Oh my god. Tank. What is that? Russia's T-90 main battle tank? Oh my god. Everyone was completely stunned by the scene in front of them. If the AK-47 and M4 rifles were just minor ones, then the T-90 main battle tank is definitely the heavyweight finale monster. What is the new boss doing? He suddenly brought out a tank. I don't know. It seems that our new chairman never likes to play by the rules. The T-90 main battle tank weighs 46 tons. Is this also an element in the Counter-Strike game? The employees of Blizzard were completely confused by the scene before their eyes. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.